Chapter 5288. With Baisu around, she could also settle her own affairs with a peace of mind. Based on Huang Wuyo's dark rat temperament, it was absolutely impossible to give up on his plans and ambitions. He would definitely start from the people around her, making use of the people she cared about, threatening her to achieve his goal. So if Baisu was in the Feng residence, the safety of the Feng family could basically be guaranteed. And there was one more point, which was the most important point. Yiqing Luo wanted to matchmake Baisu as her aunt. After all, Baisu and Feng Liqiong already had Feng Shi. Although this was a place that did not have a lot of restrictions on women like in the real history, it was a different world from the real history. But even in the 21st century, there would be a lot of rumors about a woman getting pregnant before marriage, not to mention here. Even if Baisu didn't care. But Feng Shi was the eldest son of the divine phoenix Feng family, the future head of the Feng family and the chosen successor to the divine emperor. She would eventually stand in front of everyone and accept everyone's gaze. However, once Feng Shi's identity was criticized by others, she would not be able to control herself. Baisu's reputation would be ruined. Even Feng Shi would be greatly affected. If it was possible, she hoped that Feng Liqiong and Baisu could have a good ending. Of course, if both parties had no feelings. That was not something that could be forced. After Yiqing Luo finished her words, she didn't say anything else or urged Baisu to give an answer. Baisu needed to think clearly about this kind of thing. The two of them kept silent as they walked forward. After about the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, Baisu suddenly stopped in her tracks and glanced sideways at Yiqing Luo's beautiful face. She sighed softly and said solemnly, "I will think about it." Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled up slightly as she nodded with a smile. Considering meant that there was a chance. She only hoped that straight uncle of hers wouldn't be so reckless as to kill his own son's mother. Devil Domain, desolate land. The rolling hills were withered and lifeless. Even the surrounding air seemed to be condensed with thick yin qi, which was somewhat creepy. This was a desolate land which was second only to the Devil Domain's extreme negative energy, Mount Wu Ren. Mount Wu Ren. As the name suggested, it was a place where no one could step in. Throughout the year, not a single shadow could be seen. But right now, a dense cloud of yin energy could be vaguely seen amidst the withered and lifeless mountain range. The entire uninhabited mountain became even more gloomy and gloomy. It seemed to be shrouded in a deathly aura. At the foot of the uninhabited mountain, a group of about 17 or 18 people were looking up at the desolate mountain range. A beautiful woman followed the leader carefully and said in an exceptionally nervous voice, young lord, are you really going to enter the uninhabited mountain alone?" The leader of the group wore an ink-colored robe without the slightest ornament, making him seem extremely plain. However, the cloth and the patterns embroidered on the robe were clearly luxurious. Furthermore, the aura of that person was as cold as a 1,000-year-old glacier, capable of freezing the air in the surroundings. His unbound black hair hung loosely behind him, fluttering in the wind. His face that was as cold as cast was completely solemn, without the slightest fluctuation of emotion. The man didn't turn back as his gaze was fixated on Mount Wu Ren without blinking. His expression was neither happy nor sad. "Go back." "But young lord." The 17 or 18 people behind him couldn't help but open their mouths to say something. "Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love." "Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love." Chapter 5289. The man had already raised his hand and made a gesture to stop them. Those 17 to 18 people were helpless as they swallowed all the words they wanted to say. The illusory clan cannot be left without anyone. The man's voice was as calm as his expression. "You are the last hope of the illusory clan, live on." The woman behind and the man who was closest to him revealed a complicated expression. As though she couldn't hold it in any longer, the woman clenched her fists tightly as she said, "Young lord, you are the last hope of the illusory clan. If anything happens to you, where will you place the illusory clan and where will you place us?" They could even abandon the princess of the illusory clan for their young lord. But now young lord wanted to abandon them. Was there any possibility for their illusory clan to revive? The man's cold and emotionless expression was slightly moved after the woman finished her words. He glanced sideways and finally fixed his vision on the woman. But there was still no fluctuation of emotions in his eyes. "Huan Luo, bring the people of the illusory clan and leave God realm. Find a place to live well." His voice, like the expression on his face, didn't fluctuate much. "As for the revenge of the illusory clan, I believe Yiqing Luo will definitely be able to take revenge for the illusory clan. Huan Luo's voice choked as her beautiful little face turned extremely pale. Her little hands clenched tightly as her throat was a little dry. Has young lord already decided to abandon us? The man? Zhu Wuxian's eyes moved slightly as he swept past the 10 over illusory clan's people in front of him. He was also the last person left in the illusory clan. In the past, for me, every single day was for the sake of revenge. I have never been happy nor have I ever grumbled, because this is my destiny. But ever since I met that woman who could bring me warmth, everything is no longer the same. The reason for my survival has one more. The man's voice was very soft, and after he finished his words, he paused for a long time, as though he was deliberating over his next words, or as though he was thinking of that woman. Even that cold and emotionless face showed some gentleness. He even directly used I, and not this young lord. This was enough to tell. That young lady called Yiqing Luo, in his heart, what kind of important position did she hold? I don't want to make myself regret it. He stared at the desolate mountain range in front of him, his eyes as calm as still water. But on that pale and cold face, one could faintly see the ripples between his brows. I want to live for myself for once. Just once. The illusion clansmen were silent for a while, looking at the back view of the young master, who was covered in a cold aura but also exuded a sense of loneliness. They couldn't say a single word to stop him. They knew this the best. Their young master had suffered a lot to revive the illusory race. Their young master had been living for the illusory tribe since he was born, because he knew his mission. Their young master had never said anything against them. All this while, he had always kept his identity in mind and his goal in mind. Everyone's throat tightened, and in the end, it turned into a deep sigh. Huan Luo's lips moved, but she couldn't utter a single word. Zhu Wuxin slowly brushed away the hand on his wrist. His expression was calm, his tone indifferent. You can go back. Saying that, he lifted his feet and walked towards the uninhabited mountain. He had just taken 2 steps. He heard a melodious bell-like voice coming from his back with a hint of anger. Zhu Wuxin, stop right there. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5290. That voice echoed in the empty and desolate mountain range. The people of the illusory tribe looked in the direction of the voice. They saw a woman dressed in a light blue outfit striding toward them. The woman was tall, and her jet black hair was tied behind her head, revealing her elegant and flamboyant face. She looked clean and neat with a heroic bearing. When Huan Luo saw that person, her face immediately lit up. Captain Su, quickly come and persuade Lord Young Master. If it's you, he will definitely listen to you. The woman did not reply. Her eyes were calm as she looked at Zhu Wuxin's figure. The corners of her mouth rose slightly. Zhu Wuxin, do you still want to hide from me? The woman walked toward Zhu Wuxin step by step. The people of the illusory tribe automatically made way for her. Obviously, the people of the illusory tribe were very familiar with this woman. What are you doing here? Zhu Wuxin glanced sideways at the woman behind him. Su Qingbing, you are the captain of the bloody mercenary group. You don't have the right to be willful. No. The woman's expression did not change. Her eyes were firm. I am no longer bound by the mercenary group. Zhu Wuxin's cold face, which was usually emotionless, faintly showed some strange emotions. You left the bloody mercenary group? Yes, the woman answered straightforwardly. Are you crazy? Zhu Wuxin finally shifted his gaze to the woman. Su Qingbing slowly extended her hand, holding Zhu Wuxin's wrist. If you're crazy, I'll be crazy with you. Zhu Wuxin pursed his lips, focusing on Su Qingbing's hand on his wrist. He did not say anything, but he did not shake off Su Qingbing's hand. The people of the illusory tribe felt the hidden fluctuations between the two of them. They looked left and right. Huan Luo could not help but ask in a low voice, Captain Su, aren't you here to stop Lord Young Master from doing something stupid? No. Su Qingbing slowly tightened her grip on Zhu Wuxin's wrist. Then she smiled faintly. I'm going crazy with him. Huan Luo's face instantly turned pale. Su Qingbing was not here to persuade their Lord Young Master. Instead, he wanted to accompany the young master into the uninhabited mountain. Looking at Huan Luo's expression, Su Qingbing's smile became even more beautiful. With me around, at least, you will feel more at ease, won't you? The illusion clansmen were speechless. Indeed, If young lord insists on entering the uninhabited mountain, Su Qingbing was following them. He could more or less take care of young master. Moreover, they understood Su Qingbing's feelings for their young master. If the young master was in any danger, Su Qingbing would definitely do her best to protect him. But, the people of the illusion race looked at each other and wanted to say something. Su Qingbing interrupted their thoughts. No one can change what he has decided. Do as he says and leave the last bloodline of the illusion race here. The people of the illusion race were speechless. In the end, they could only watch helplessly as Su Qingbing held onto Zhu Wuxin's arm and the two of them gradually disappeared in front of them, completely blending into the desolate, uninhabited mountain. Huan Luo clenched her fists, loosened them and loosened them again. Her eyes were scarlet. Huan 3, why didn't you stop the young master? When she opened her mouth, her voice was a little choked. Beside her, the expressionless young man glanced at her and said coldly, "Indeed, no one can change what the young master has decided. Seventh young mistress who likes trash. Lord Dizun, please be gentler. Seventh young mistress who likes trash. Lord Dizun, please be gentler." Chapter 5291. Huan Luo pursed her lips and turned her head away. Huan 3 turned around expressionlessly and walked away. "Let's go." That cold and indifferent word made everyone from the illusion clan looked at each other in dismay. But Huan 3 didn't stop as he walked further and further away. Huan Luo was still standing on the same spot as she looked towards the direction of Mount No Man, not moving at all. Everyone from the illusion clan looked left and right. Just as Huan 3's figure was about to disappear in front of their eyes. In the end, they still chose to chase after Huan 3. Inside Mount No Man, Su Qingbing supported Zhu Wuxian as they walked step by step slowly into the mountain. The atmosphere between the two of them was strange as they remained silent. After walking for about half an incense's time, Zhu Wuxian was the first to speak, breaking the silence. "Why are you following me?" "Whatever you're here for, I'm here for." Su Qingbing's lips curled slightly as she glanced sideways at the cold man beside her. Zhu Wuxian frowned slightly. "This matter doesn't have much to do with you. Why are you doing this?" "That's right. It indeed doesn't have much to do with me." Su Qingbing laughed lightly. "But Zhu Wuxian, the newly appointed God Emperor and revered warriorless matter, what does it have to do with you?" The lady's question made Zhu Wuxian speechless. Su Qingbing shifted her gaze as her pair of spirited beautiful eyes looked towards the front. Her voice was as calm as water, just like Zhu Wuxian, unable to stir up any huge waves. Her lips curled as she spoke calmly. "You're doing it for Qing Luo, I'm doing it for you. I'm no different from you." Su Qingbing. Zhu Wuxian's thin lips moved slightly as he spat out Su Qingbing's name. Su Qingbing looked up at the sky as she interrupted Zhu Wuxian's words. "Don't talk to me about principles, to tell the truth. You don't have any rights to say that to me. After all, if I used the same words to make you give up on the newly appointed God Phoenix, would you be willing?" Zhu Wuxian. "That's right." This was the answer that Su Qingbing had expected, but it still made Su Qingbing's heart feel a little stabbing pain. She ignored the throbbing pain in her heart and forced a smile. "My goal is to make you feel guilty towards me. You'll see everything I've done for you. Perhaps I'll exist in your eyes. Who knows?" Su Qingbing's brisk voice and tone eased the heavy atmosphere between the two of them a little. The two of them walked for a while. Zhu Wuxian spoke again, breaking the silence. "Do you know why I came to Desolate Mountain?" "I more or less understand you." Su Qingbing tilted her head and looked at him with a smile in her eyes. She and Zhu Wuxin could be considered friends. She had thought about it many times. If only she had been the first person to give Zhu Wuxin warmth back then. Would the result be different? But there was no such thing as if. She could only stand by his side as a friend, as a brother, and accompany him. At the thought of the past, Su Qingbing's eyes lit up with some tranquility and serenity. "You came all the way to Desolate Mountain, a place with such a thick murderous aura. I can't think of any other reason besides the newly appointed God Phoenix." Su Qingbing smiled. "She's my love rival after all. Aren't you being too cruel to me by asking me to answer this question?" Zhu Wuxian's expression did not change much. "It's still not too late to go back now. You're chasing me away just like that?" Su Qingbing suddenly stretched out her hand boldly and held his arm. "Seventh young mistress who likes trash. Lord Dizun, please be gentler. Seventh young mistress who likes trash. Lord Dizun, please be gentler." Chapter 5292. Zhu Wuxin struggled. Su Qingbing clung to him even tighter. The lady's elegant face was even more calm. Zhu Wuxin, since I've decided to follow you, I'm prepared to be shameless, just like how you treat the new divine phoenix. Her smile was also magnanimous. What's more, you really need me now, don't you? Zhu Wuxian's cold face froze slightly. I've liked you for so many years, and I'm also the only one who can stay by your side for so long. My understanding of you is far beyond your imagination. The lady smiled brightly, but there was more sincerity in her smile. It was as if this would be the last time she would pour out her feelings. Therefore she held nothing back. Zhu Wuxin's thin lips moved slightly as if he wanted to say something, but he didn't say anything in the end. He just walked forward silently. Su Qingbing, on the other hand, no longer had so many concerns after she opened her heart. She tilted her head and stared at Zhu Wuxin's side profile. The place where Supremacy Worryless was sealed has become the #1 place of extreme Yin in the demon territory after years of nurturing by Supremacy Worryless. This also means that Supremacy Worryless needs Yin Qi and murderous aura as the source of power. Apart from the Demon Destruction Mountain in the demon territory, the only other place in the demon territory that is filled with murderous aura is Immortal Mountain. She paused. So, Supremacy Worryless must be recuperating somewhere in this Immortal Mountain. In the Demon Palace of the Demon Territory. After 2 days of consideration, and after Baisu tested Feng Shi's thoughts and attitude, she finally decided to stay in the Feng residence. When she made her decision, the Feng family master looked delighted. Master Feng was delighted. He looked at Baisu as if she was his future daughter-in-law. Feng Liqiong's expression was a little stiff. When she looked at Baisu, she looked away unnaturally. Finally, when no one was paying attention, she secretly said to Baisu, "Thank you." Baisu glanced at him expressionlessly. Then, her gaze returned to Feng Shi, who was still sleeping soundly, and her eyes became gentle. However, his voice was still as cold as ever. "You don't have to thank me. I stayed behind for Cici. In the past 6 years, I didn't fulfill my duty as a mother. I didn't stay by his side and watch him grow. For the past 6 years he has lacked the care of a mother. So, I don't want Cici to lose her father, grandfather and loved ones because of me in the future. I just want Cici to be happy. It has nothing to do with you." The woman's emotions were very indifferent, and her words were also so straightforward that no one could respond to her. Feng Liqiong's expression stiffened even further. Her mouth moved, but when she looked at the woman's gentle profile, it was as if there was a gentle light shining on that beautiful face. All the words were stuck in her throat, unable to come out. Seeing this, Feng family master quickly opened his mouth to break the strange atmosphere between the two sides. He strode forward with a big smile on his face. "It's good that you stay. It's good that you stay. Cici has always wanted his father and mother to stay with him since he was young. Now that he can finally fulfill his wish, he will be very happy." Of course, Feng family master hoped that if Baisu could be with Feng Liqiong, not only would Feng Liqiong's marriage be resolved, but they would also be able to reunite as a family. Now the only one who could make Baisu stay was Feng Shi. The Feng family master was already thinking about how to discuss with Feng Shi secretly so that Feng Shi could be a godly assistant. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5293. Baisu stayed in the demon hall just like that. The Feng family members were overjoyed. But the various powerhouses in the demon domain couldn't even smile. The demon domain was originally separated from the outside world. It was rare to meet outsiders in 100 years. Towards those outsiders, the people in the demon domain were naturally against it. But now, wave after wave of people from the outside world came one after another, practically filling up the entire demon realm. This made the people in the demon domain start to panic. They were all guessing. Did the outside world intend to join forces to attack the demon domain? Now, even the new divine phoenix of the god world had brought along her entire family and stayed in the demon domain. This made the people in the demon domain have the guts. The feeling that the outside world intended to invade the demon domain. But it was what they thought. The people from the demon domain who had always been known as bloodthirsty, cold-blooded and loved to kill, had no thoughts of starting a war at this moment. What a joke. Some time ago, the newly appointed god phoenix inherited the god emperor's inheritance. The people in the demon domain had witnessed it with their own eyes. Their legend from 10,000 years ago, the man known as the demon dragon, the king of the demon domain, was so respectful, in front of the newly appointed god phoenix. Then there was that person, the old man in the demon domain who had heard of the legend regarding revered Worryless. That revered Worryless' ability was comparable to the former God Emperor. He was also the most powerful person in the world. 10,000 years ago, the former God Emperor used his own life to seal revered Worryless. And that revered Worryless seal had already been removed. But he was seriously injured by the newly appointed God Phoenix Fengqing Luo. Someone who could injure revered Worryless so seriously. Don't you think she's powerful? Don't you think she's powerful? No matter how much they loved to kill, it didn't mean that they had no brains to find trouble with the newly appointed God Phoenix Fengqing Luo. Hence, he could only endure the large group of people in the outside world in fear and trepidation, staying in the demon domain. After a day of recuperation, Yiqing Luo's body had completely recovered, full of vitality. She had just walked out of the palace when she saw the Lord of the Demon Hall, Demon Enchantress, walking towards her aggressively. The demonic enchantress was dressed in a long crow feather robe. As she fluttered behind her, it was as if she had spread out her black wings, causing her cold and elegant face to reveal a sinister aura. When the demonic charm's vision fell onto Yiqing Luo, it was as if all of his emotions had exploded in that instant. Lord Divine Phoenix. The demonic enchantress's voice was icy cold as she called out Yiqing Luo's honorific. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes and met the devilish gaze. That gorgeous face did not show much emotion, as if it did not care about the rage of the demonic enchantress. The more she acted like this, the angrier the demonic enchantress became. What exactly do you outsiders want? Did they all treat the infernal domain as a sightseeing place? You people from the divine world have come here, and even people from other worlds have come here. Do you think that the devil zone is outside of the heavenly Tao's control, and you don't need to follow the rules of other worlds? Facing the wrath of the demonic enchantress, Yiqing Luo was still as calm as ever. She said, "You don't have to worry, the God realm has no intention of invading the demon realm. We, the devil zone, have been outside the heavenly Tao for the past 10,000 years, and we don't want to have any involvement with you outsiders. Your existence today has already seriously disturbed the normal life of the devil zone." The demonic enchantress's expression sunk as she spat out every single word. "Lord Divine Phoenix, this Lord hopes that you can be clear that the cause of this matter is because of the previous God Emperor's sovereign. You, the previous God Emperor's sovereign's descendant and the previous God Emperor's sovereign, have really treated the devil zone as a toy in your hands? Seventh Miss who likes trash, Lord Overlord, please be gentler with your loving hands. Seventh Miss who likes trash, Lord Overlord, please be gentler with your loving hands." Chapter 5294. If it wasn't for Fenggu who sealed Huang Wuyo here. If it wasn't for Fenggu who sealed himself here. If it wasn't for the fact that when Fenggu sealed himself, he also sealed the devil domain's previous king Mo Long. The devil domain wouldn't be spied on by the various domains. The moment there were more people, the devil domain would be in chaos. Not to mention the various powerhouses from various domains, all gathered here. It was even messier than before. And the main culprit who caused all of this was Fengqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's expression had a slight change. She raised her eyes slightly and with a demonic charm she asked calmly, "What do you want?" Now the devil domain was a foregone conclusion. The idea of chasing the various powerhouses out of the devil domain wasn't realistic at all. After all, the former sovereign of God's tomb was still here. Huang Wuyo was still in the devil domain. The various powerhouses had gone through many hardships to come to the devil domain. Wasn't it for the sake of the treasures in the tomb? Wasn't it for the sake of to see if they could get something beneficial to their own powerhouses from the world-famous revered Carefree? It was absolutely impossible for the various powerhouses to leave the devil domain. So, the demonic enchantress ran over here and angrily rebuked them. But she had another motive. The demonic enchantress didn't beat around the bush as she asked directly, "Previously, do you still keep your promise to this lord?" Naturally. Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes narrowed as she hinted at something. "As long as you didn't collaborate with Huang Wuyo, you will definitely be able to sit firmly on the Devil Hall Master's position." She paused slightly as her pink lips curled into a faint smile. That smile obviously looked sweet. However, it inexplicably gave people a feeling of dread and panic. But Yiqing Luo's topic of conversation changed as her terrifying laughter rang faintly. "If you were to go back on our previous agreement, then this Devil Hall Master position, I can change someone else to sit on it?" The young lady's voice was calm and cold, yet confident and ostentatious. That exquisite brows were filled with absolute confidence. as though what she said was merely the calmness of discussing the changes in the weather. The demonic enchantress's expression changed slightly. Anger surged in his heart. Yiqing Luo seemed as though she couldn't see the devil enchantress's murderous glare as she continued smiling as her pink lips curled upwards, continuing, I believe that if I push Madame Huang Ci to take the position, I believe Devil Domain's people will accept it very well. The indifference in the girl's tone was very obvious. The demonic enchantress' expression darkened, as if it was about to rain at any moment. But the demonic enchantress was unable to refute Yiqing Luo's words. Because, based on Yiqing Luo's current ability and status, she pondered, it could really change the master of the infernal domain. This was what the demonic enchantress was most worried about. Otherwise, she wouldn't have specially come to look for Yiqing Luo at this timing. Demonic enchantress suppressed her anger, her cold and elegant face was covered with frost. I am not a person who goes back on her words. The Palace of Darkness once deceived me with a fake venerable emperor. I have no trust in the Palace of Darkness, so how can I cooperate with the Palace of Darkness again? However, her righteous words did not cause the expression of the young girl opposite her to change in the slightest. Yiqing Luo remained calm as she smiled at the demonic enchantress. Her pink lips were still curled as she smiled indifferently. I'm not talking about the Palace of Darkness, but Wang Wuyo. The demonic enchantress's expression instantly turned pale. Her body retreated 2 steps backwards as she looked at Yiqing Luo's gaze, which was filled with astonishment. Her heart was pounding wildly. The demonic enchantress suppressed this feeling as she tried her best to make her expression appear normal. That's natural. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5295. After the demonic enchantress finished her sentence, she was unable to look straight into Yiqing Luo's eyes. She took a deep breath and looked away. She naturally heard the warning in Yiqing Luo's words. She was indeed the new divine phoenix. She looked like she was recuperating in the demonic hall and loving the people of the Feng family. It was as if she had long forgotten about the previous battles. However, he didn't miss a single thing that he should know. She had underestimated Yiqing Luo. Initially, he thought that he would be able to deceive everyone by being discreet. Only now did he know, Yiqing Luo had no reaction, nor did she find trouble with her. It was just that everything was in the palm of his hand, so he didn't care much about it. The hands under the enchantress's long robe were tightly clenched. He was like a prisoner on death row waiting to be sentenced. The atmosphere instantly froze. The silence was depressing. When the demonic enchantress was almost out of breath, only then did the girl's clear laughter come from the other side. The young girl's crimson-red lips curled into an arc, looking pure and harmless. Her gorgeous face was covered in a slight smile that was like a blooming flower, and it was peerlessly beautiful. I naturally believe in Lord Devil Hall's words. She took a step forward and smiled brightly. So, I hope that Lord Devil Lord will put in some effort to find Huang Wuyo's whereabouts. The demonic enchantress took a deep breath, her voice somewhat tense. This demonic enchantress will naturally speed up the search. Yes. The young girl nodded slowly. After the matter with Huang Wuyo is over, I will naturally lead the people of the God Realm to retreat from the Devil Domain. At that time, you will still be the high and mighty lord of the Devil Palace in the Devil Domain, and the God Realm will not step into the Devil Domain again. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly. After that, he walked past the demonic enchantress and left the palace, heading toward Fengshi's palace. Until Yiqing Luo left, the demon palaces were all stunned. By the time she regained her senses, she realized that the back of her clothes was already wet and stuck to her body. She had actually been intimidated by a young girl. The demonic enchantress took a few deep breaths, suppressing the fear in her heart. Everything she had done, Yiqing Luo was actually very clear about it. He didn't point it out, but he was giving her a chance. As for her, how should he choose? This choice would affect her future. Yiqing Luo had just walked out of the palace when she saw Yan Xiaoyi and the others standing at the entrance. The Brothers of the World group had long heard about what happened in the Devil region, and those with sufficient strength all hurried over. Seeing Yiqing Luo coming out, Yan Xiaoyi was the first one who couldn't hold it in. Qing Luo, if you're disloyal once, you don't need to do it 100 times. He's already working with you, yet he still has other thoughts. This kind of person can't be trusted. They had just arrived at the entrance when they saw the Devil Hall. Yan Xiaoyi had originally intended to charge forward directly, but she was stopped by Qiao Jin. The group of them had heard the conversation between Yi Qing Luo and the devil enchantress clearly. After seeing the world group, Yi Qing Luo's expression turned gentler as the smile on her lips became more sincere and tender. Even with her current identity, how could she intimidate others? Her brothers, her companions, still treated her with the same attitude. It wasn't any different from before. She pulled Yan Xiaoyi's hand as she patted it gently. She had never been loyal to me before, so it's not considered as betrayal. She had previously worked with the Gloomy Palace and later on turned her back to work with me. That means that this person, as long as the bargaining chip is given enough, she would be able to lean towards any side. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5296. The current Devil region isn't as peaceful as what we see on the surface. Once there's a change of master, I'm afraid there would be another huge wave. Our main motive for staying in the Devil region is to let Huang Wuyo rest in eternal sleep, to atone for what we had planned 10,000 years ago for Mother. Yi Qing Luo's long and narrow eyes lifted slightly as she shot towards the front without any focus. I don't want to add to the chaos and let you all fall into danger because of me. She sighed softly as she held Yan Xiaoyi's hand and increased her strength slightly. Yan Xiaoyi could clearly feel the heat on the young lady's palm. Their hands were intertwined, conveying a sense of solemnity and cherishing. The anger on Yan Xiaoyi's face towards the devil slowly dissipated as her brows started to soften. She held Yi Qing Luo's hand as she slowed down her tone and gave a light laugh. You have always been very strong and had always been walking in front of us. We've been protected very, very well by you. Her tone was serious and dignified, so don't feel guilty or blame yourself. Everything that we've experienced is the motivation to push us to grow. If it wasn't for your protection, we wouldn't be able to be so unrestrained, using our own method to grow. And the reason why we're able to appear in the Devil region, to be able to turn from the trash that everyone ridiculed, to become our current strong selves. All of this is all because of you. Yan Xiaoyi suddenly stretched out her hand as she circled the young lady's neck and hugged her tightly. Qing Luo, really? Thank you for appearing. Yi Qing Luo went into a slight daze as she listened to the gentle whisper by her ear. Her brows slowly turned gentle as her long and narrow eyes seemed to be dotted with dazzling stars. Her heart softened. The two of them headed towards Feng Shi's direction to take a look at Feng Shi's condition and then went to check on Ling Long. Feng Shi's condition was still all right. Only Ling Long, perhaps it was because of her father who wasn't considered benevolent in her memory, but who was always obedient to her, suddenly turned so malevolent and even attempted to take her life. This had caused a huge trauma in the hearts of this little girl. Even when she woke up, Ling Long was still stuck in the shadow, unable to walk out. She could only use medication to calm her down and sleep again. Ghost Doctor and the rest had also rushed over along with the World Group brothers. After taking a look at Ling Long, the Ghost Doctor shook his head. A heart's ailment could only be treated with medicine from the heart. He was also powerless. Ling Long could not walk out of her nightmare. I will never be able to calm down. In this regard, Yi Qing Luo thought of many ways. In the end, it was Bai Su who brought the pale Feng Shi to see Ling Long, and Ling Long's condition improved a little. But only a little. Yi Qing Luo walked out of Ling Long's room and the few people beside her revealed a melancholic expression as they heaved a long sigh. I plan to bring Cici and Ling Long back to the divine realm first. Bai Su leaned against the door and said to Yi Qing Luo, but her eyes were fixed on the inside of the house. Feng Shi was sitting by Ling Long's bed, gently coaxing her to sleep. As for Ling Long, Bai Su was still a little unhappy. After all, Feng Shi had been injured because of Ling Long. That was why she had exposed the mark of the Divine Emperor's successor and attracted Huang Wuyo's attention. Yes, and, most importantly, Ling Long was Huang Wuyo's daughter. Although Yi Qing Luo was also Huang Wuyo's daughter. But after all, the environment they grew up in and the things they carried were different. But Feng Shi valued Ling Long. She valued him so much that in order to protect Ling Long, he exploded with an unbearable energy load. How could Bai Su bear to do that, and how could she bear to stop Feng Shi and Ling Long from interacting? 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5297. Therefore Bai Su decided. Then he left the demonic domain with Ling Long. Yi Qing Luo had her own considerations on this point that Bai Su had raised. Ling Long's current situation. Staying in the demon domain was indeed more dangerous. This was especially true for Huang Wuyo, who was hiding somewhere. Now that he knew that Feng Shi was the next successor of the Divine Emperor, he would probably attack Feng Shi secretly. It would probably be safer to take Feng Shi away from the demon territory while Huang Wuyo was still severely injured. She pursed her lips. Do you have a place to go? Baisu nodded. Since I can stay outside of the myriad world and not be restrained, I naturally have a place that belongs to me. Since I decided to take Cece away, I must have made full preparations. Yiqing Luo remained silent for a moment before she opened her mouth to ask, Then, what about my maternal grandfather and uncle? Baisu frowned slightly. She was a little reluctant, but she still continued to say, I promised Cece that I wouldn't let him leave his grandfather, so I will keep my promise. In other words, Old Master Feng and Feng Liqiong would also leave with them. Yiqing Luo agreed to Baisu's idea without hesitation. Now that Old Master Feng and Feng Liqiong had left the demonic realm, she felt more at ease. He stayed in the infernal domain for a day. The more dangerous it was, the higher the danger. Yiqing Luo turned towards Yan Shaoyi and the rest. You all? Before she could finish speaking, Yan Shaoyi seemed to already know what she wanted to say and took the initiative to interrupt her. We've worked so hard to grow and it wasn't easy to catch up to your footsteps. Don't think of leaving us behind. The few people behind her gazed firmly at Yiqing Luo as they gave a heavy end sound. They knew that Yiqing Luo was trying to persuade them to follow Baisu to leave the Devil region. However, if they were to leave the infernal domain because of danger, otherwise he wouldn't have to go through so much trouble to rush over to the demon domain. Looking at their resolute faces with an expression of, if you chase me away we will die in front of you, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laughed. Who said I want you to leave? I'm asking you to help cover their escape. Don't let anyone discover them, including that Lord of the Devil Palace. Baisu left quietly. In the current situation of the demon domain, all the major forces were crowded together. With so many people missing, it did not attract too much attention. Whereas the demonic enchantress who had been beaten by Yiqing Luo quickly sent news over. She had already found out where Huang Wuyo was hiding. Devil Succubus told Yiqing Luo the address and his vision fell onto the young lady's side. That godlike man suppressed the unwillingness in his heart as he spoke in a deep and cold voice. I hope you will remember what you promised this prince. To Diamo Xian. If the demonic enchantress said that she didn't have any thoughts, then it was definitely impossible. After all, Diamo Xian's status was high and mighty. The reason why she had agreed to the Palace of Darkness request to marry the Overlord, other than the deal with the Palace of Darkness, there was also the fact that Diamo Xian was coveting her. But unexpectedly, the person she coveted was a fake. And the real Diamo Xian. However, he was not even interested in looking at her. However, at this moment, no matter how much unwillingness and resentment he felt in his heart, the demonic enchantress did not reveal anything. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled up slightly as she smiled sweetly, contrasting that bright and beautiful face, making it even more captivating. Her long and narrow eyes narrowed slightly, meeting with the demonic enchantress's gaze. The demonic enchantress felt that the secret in her heart seemed to have been seen through. This feeling was the same as the few times when she discussed the deal with Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo had seen through everything. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5298. Yiqing Luo had this kind of magical power. It was as if everything was under her control. As expected. The next moment, a young lady's clear voice drifted into his ears. If Lord Demonic Lord knows his place, I naturally will not forget. She paused as her fair hand hooked onto the man's arm. Pulling him, she walked past the demonic enchantress, towards the outside of the hall. When they passed by the demonic enchantress, the young lady slightly suppressed her voice as she glanced sideways, her pink lips curled slightly. Let me give Lord Demonic Lord a piece of advice. Don't have any thoughts that you shouldn't have. She seemed to be smiling, but that low charming voice, when it entered the demonic enchantress's ears, it made the demonic enchantress's hair stand on end. The young lady's words had a double meaning. It was a warning to the demonic enchantress to know its place and cooperate with her. And also a warning to the demonic enchantress. Don't have any thoughts towards her man. Leaving the palace, Diamo Xian drew the little girl into his arms as he whispered softly, Is Lil Luo jealous? Yiqing Luo hooked the man's slender fingers as she circled it in her palm. Not jealous. After all, the man I chose is so outstanding, so it's normal for other women to covet you. She didn't mind other women liking Diamo Xian. She couldn't control a person's heart if they liked him. Furthermore, her man was indeed outstanding. But she raised her head slightly as she met the man's eyes, which were as deep as ink, projecting only her silhouette. Her pink lips curled slightly as she smiled. If because I like you, I taint you. I can't take it. That absolutely stunning face, the smile on the corners of her lips slowly turned bright and flamboyant. Like a coquettish mandala, gradually blooming. That kind of intoxicating, captivating one's soul. After all, you belong to me. Her Xian. Her own Xian. She could like him. But to cross the boundary she couldn't. Diamo Xian's peerless face revealed an indulgent and tender smile. He nodded as his eyes were clear. Yes, I'm yours. Yiqing Luo prodded his face satisfactorily. Good boy. The two of them hadn't been like this for a long time, spending time alone. The two of them stuck together and talked for a while. Yiqing Luo then brought up the main topic. That's right, Xian, haven't you been trying to find out where Huang Wuyo is these few days? Is there any news? There's news, but Diamo Xian gazed at the young lady's face as he replied calmly, there was an accident, do you want to know? Accident? Yiqing Luo raised her brows. You still have an accident? Could it be that he has already left the infernal domain? If Huang Wuyo really escaped from the demon domain, if Baisu left with the Feng family, Fengshi and Linglong, it would be dangerous. Diamo Xian shook his head. I've sent people from the Imperial Palace to guard the various exits of the Devil's Domain and even set up an array. No matter how many ancient forbidden spells Huang Wuyo knows, trying to undo the array I've set up would definitely attract my attention. Huang Wuyo must still be in the demon domain. After listening to Diamo Xian's words, Yiqing Luo was relieved. Then what is the accident you mentioned? The accident is... Diamo Xian lowered his head slightly as he leaned close to her ear. Other than the Devil Extermination Mountain, the second largest extreme Yin ground in the demon domain, Mount Wu Rin, is Huang Wuyo's second resting place. The people from the Imperial Palace have detected Huang Wuyo's presence in Mount Wu Rin. Other than that, there's also... Diamo Xian paused for a moment before spitting out a name, Zhu Wu Xin. Yiqing Luo was slightly stunned. Zhu Wu Xin? He's also in Mount Wu Rin? Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5299. Ever since they came out of the Divine Emperor's seal, the people of the illusion race took Zhu Wuxin away. And at that time, apart from being drugged by her, Zhu Wuxin seemed to have suffered quite a serious injury. Why did he come to uninhabited mountain instead of recuperating? The young lady's expression fell into Diamo Xian's eyes. Diamo Xian's eyes narrowed as he pinched her nose and his tone seemed to be displeased. Lil Luo, seems to trust Zhu Wuxin quite a lot. Huang Wuyo was hiding in the uninhabited mountain. Uninhabited mountain detected Zhu Wuxin's aura again. Logically speaking, any normal person would guess that Huang Wuyo and Zhu Wuxin were in cahoots. But Yiqing Luo totally didn't think in this direction. It was enough to show how much trust Yiqing Luo had towards Zhu Wuxin. Yiqing Luo choked on her words. Her little hand grabbed Diamo Xian's hand and moved his hand away from her nose. You're spilling the vinegar jar again. Diamo Xian's face didn't reveal a single bit of embarrassment. Instead he spoke in a righteous manner. Who doesn't know about Zhu Wuxin's feelings towards you? Why can't I be jealous? Yiqing Luo burst out laughing with a pft. She pouted coquettishly as she stared at Diamo Xian and replied snappily, Huang Wuyo is the murderer who exterminated the Illusory clan. As the young lord of the Illusory clan, Zhu Wuxin is the only hope of the Illusory clan. He must be crazy to acknowledge the enemy as his father, and collaborate with Huang Wuyo again. Furthermore, Zhu Wuxin was too stubborn. His obsession with her. They would also not allow him and Huang Wuyo to work together again. Because Huang Wuyo's motive was obvious. Huang Wuyo was determined to take Yiqing Luo's life and dig out her profound heart jade, using her fresh blood to irrigate himself. Therefore, this was the reason why Zhu Wuxin appeared on the uninhabited mountain. Perhaps there was only one. Yiqing Luo's expression turned slightly grave as she spoke in a deep voice. Now we have to rush over to Mount Wu Ren. Zhu Wuxin was probably doing this for her and the illusion race. He would first head to the uninhabited mountain to look for the whereabouts of Huang Wuyo. The people of the demon realm were in a state of panic. All the major forces were wary of each other. However, they all had the same goal. That was, Devil Domain's Devil Hall, Yiqing Luo's group's whereabouts. For the major forces, Whether it was the tomb of the former divine emperor or the place where revered carefree was sealed, that was related to Yiqing Luo. Moreover, Yiqing Luo was able to become the current divine phoenix. It was definitely not that easy to inherit the position of the divine phoenix. There must be some secret behind this. Even if they couldn't defeat Yiqing Luo, they couldn't defeat the overlord. At the very least, finding out Yiqing Luo's secret would more or less be able to take advantage of her secretly. Especially now that Yiqing Luo and the others were still in the Devil region. This also meant that there were definitely other secrets hidden in the infernal domain. That was what many forces were thinking. Because of this, more and more people paid attention to the demonic hall. But this was because the demon hall was being watched by countless spies. Yiqing Luo's group still silently disappeared from the Devil Hall. At this moment, Yiqing Luo and the rest had already started on their journey towards the Mountain of No Man. The demonic palace was not far from the desolate mountain. Yiqing Luo led the group of brothers along with the 5 ghosts and the rest all the way forward. After walking for about a day, they had already reached the foot of the Mountain of No Man. Looking at the Mountain of No Man, it was a stretch of undulating mountain range. Withered yellow trees without any signs of life were scattered all over the place. Wisps of gloomy cold air floated in the sky, bringing along a strong malicious intent. This made this Mountain of No Man added a tinge of treachery. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5300. Yiqing Luo had just gotten close to it when she felt the icy cold viper like cold viper, causing her brows to crease tightly. The atmosphere here. It wasn't any lesser than Devil Destruction Mountain Xin Qi. It was able to cause discomfort to humans. It was indeed a place that Huang Wuyo would choose. The yin qi in this place was the best healing medicine for Huang Wuyo. The man by her side clasped their fingers together tightly. His gentle and concerned gaze fell on her. Yiqing Luo raised her head and met his gaze as she smiled and shook her head, indicating that she was fine. Following that, she looked at Yan Xiaoyi and the rest behind her as she instructed, "Everyone be careful. The yin qi here is very heavy and it is harmful to the body. If you breathe it in for a long period of time, it will affect your bodies. If you are not feeling well, don't force yourself. Just stay here and be our support." Her words were heard. Yan Xiaoyi and the rest frowned as they were about to retort. Yiqing Luo interrupted their words, "You want to stay by my side because you want to help me to do something for me. But under these prerequisites. The most important thing is to protect yourselves. If you are at the foot of the mountain, you will feel a strong discomfort towards the yin qi here. Then if you enter the inner part of the mountain, I'm afraid you will feel even more uncomfortable." Huang Wuyo had always liked to make use of people's hearts, toying with them. Once something happens to you, he might possibly make use of you to clamp down on me and restrain me. By then, wouldn't it be even more troublesome? The young lady's question made everyone's expression congealed slightly. In the end, they left 5 of them at the foot of the mountain, ready to receive them anytime. As for the remaining people who entered the mountain, Ghost Doctor gave each of them 2 medicinal pills, although it wasn't able to defend against the strong yin qi, but it would at least make everyone's body slightly more comfortable. The moment Yiqing Luo stepped into the mountain, she sensed that something was amiss. Stepping into the mountain, everything in front of her eyes instantly changed from the barren mountain and withered trees to a densely packed forest. The most frightening thing about this densely packed area was that this huge forest was not an ordinary green color, but as though it was surrounded by a thick black fog. Black tree branches, black leaves. It exuded an eerie aura. The trees were baring their fangs and brandishing their sharp branches. The leaves were so sharp that they looked like sharp fangs. It was like a living creature. In the air, apart from the thick smell of decay and dampness, there was also a thick, nauseating smell of blood. When the wind blew, it became even denser, filling their nostrils. Yiqing Luo's pupils contracted as her fingertips speedily opened up her glower flame fan, using a protective stance to protect the group of people behind her. Spatial enchantment. Where they were now. It could be said to be the uninhabited mountain, but it could also be said to be another space within the uninhabited mountain. And this space, this was the space that the person who had set up the spatial enchantment wanted them to see. Other than Huang Wuyo, no one else could possess such a sinister secret technique. It seemed that she did not need to search for Huang Wuyo's whereabouts. You could be sure now. Huang Wuyo was in the uninhabited mountain. In a short span of 3 days, Huang Wuyo recovered rather quickly. Not only did he manage to occupy Empyrean Mountain, he even had the energy to set up such a complicated spatial formation around the enormous Empyrean Mountain. From the smell of blood in the air. In these 3 days, Huang Wuyo had absorbed quite a lot of resignation. Yo Hong, you're indeed that woman Feng Ji's daughter, you're still very vigilant. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5301. A sinister voice was heard faintly from the dense forest. That laughter was filled with a thick sense of sarcasm. This voice suddenly rang in the midst of the group of vigilant and solemn atmosphere. Instantly it attracted everyone's attention as they all looked over in unison. In the dense black forest, a tall figure was faintly discernible as it approached from afar. Into everyone's eyes, Inchi lingered around. That man dressed in a black long robe seemed to be materialized from the black fog. When Yiqing Luo saw that man's face clearly, her narrow eyes squinted slightly. Long Out Yin, what are you doing here? Why was he here? Seeing Long Out Yin, that murderous and bloody aura, under the sky full of Yin Qi, revealed a hint of bloodthirsty intent. Instantly, it made the world group's faces revealed vigilance as they speedily displayed a defensive stance, blocking in front of Yiqing Luo. Whereas Ghost Doctor and the other 4 frowned slightly as their brows creased tightly as they stared at Long Out Yin, sizing him up. The expression on their faces was complicated and vigilant. This man's aura was strangely familiar. Seeing that Yiqing Luo directly called out his name, they probably knew each other. Long Out Yin's sinister and bloodthirsty eyes sized up the world group's people with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Seeing their vigilant looks as though they were facing a great enemy, his lips couldn't help but curled into a sneer of ridicule. Little thing, you just brought these few pieces of trash and stepped onto the desolate mountain? Are you thinking too highly of yourself? Or are you belittling that monster inside? Yiqing Luo's expression instantly sunk. Long Out Yin, you can ridicule me however you want. But don't belittle my brother. Long Out Yin sneered as he opened up his arms and waved it lazily. Alright, this seat won't say any more. Yiqing Luo's brows creased even tighter. This Long Out Yin wasn't someone who was so easily obedient. To compromise so quickly wasn't like his style. Long Out Yin's cold gaze squinted at Yiqing Luo's expression as he sneered. Little thing, don't use this kind of expression to look at this seat. This seat is here. It's merely because I'm bored. This seat has just awoken and there's no place for me to go, so I can only follow you. His tone was filled with helplessness, as though following Yiqing Luo was her greatest honor. Yiqing Luo's vision went past him and looked towards the direction where he had just walked out from. How did you know that I would come to Mount Wu Ren? That was the direction of the inner part of the mountain. In other words, Long Out Yin had entered the uninhabited mountain early in the morning. Long Ao Tian looked at Yiqing Luo as though he was looking at an idiot. You've been staying in the devil region, isn't it because you haven't settled that monster inside? That monster is in the uninhabited mountain, how could you not come? Yiqing Luo. Fine, I know you're smart, I know you're amazing. What did he mean by that smug and boastful tone? Yiqing Luo looked at the world group beside her as she waved her hand. No matter, continue walking into the mountain. Although the world group had retracted their defensive stance, their gazes towards Long Out Yin were still filled with vigilance. After all, this person didn't look like a good person at all. Yiqing Luo left. Long Out Yin followed behind him, walking leisurely as if he was on an outing. They walked for about the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn. Yiqing Luo suddenly asked, when did you come in? Earlier than you. By a few hours. Long Out Yin replied. Yiqing Luo replied, when you entered Mount Wu Ren, was there already a spatial enchantment set up? 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5302. Long Out Yin curled his lips into a sinister smile. What's in it for me to tell you? Yiqing Luo was expressionless. Say it if you like. After saying that, she turned her head and didn't look at him anymore. Yiqing Luo ignored him. Long Out Yin felt even worse. Hey hey hey. Long Ao Tian hastened his footsteps as he walked side by side with Yiqing Luo. No matter what, this seat is the famous Lord Demon Dragon from 10,000 years ago. What's wrong with giving some benefits to ask this seat some questions? Was that too much to ask? If it was 10,000 years ago, just being able to speak to him was already a blessing accumulated in one's previous life. Yiqing Luo didn't even give him a look. Long Outyin couldn't hold it in anymore. Fine, I'll tell you. When I arrived, the immortal mountain had already been covered by that monster's energy. I think that monster had already guessed that you would come here. He paused, and his tone suddenly became gloating. That monster knows that you're coming, but it has no intention of escaping. It's ready to invite you into its trap. And you just happened to deliver yourself to me. An evil smile flashed across Long Outyin's bloodthirsty and cold eyes. You guys have to be careful. His drawn-out tone added some haze to the strange atmosphere. This made the world group's heart sink even further. Yen Xiaoyi pursed her lips and glared at Long Outyin. She wanted to scold him. Since he had chosen to follow their team, they didn't expect him to help, but he shouldn't make sarcastic remarks from the side either. However, Qiao Jin pressed down on her arm and shook his head gently at her. That person is not simple. Qiao Jin lowered his voice. A person from 10,000 years ago. I'm afraid he's someone who can be mentioned in the same breath as the previous Emperor of Gods, Huang Wuyo. If Long Outyin were to be angered at this moment, on the contrary, it would only cause more trouble. There's a very strange aura on him, said the blue-clothed youth who was being supported by Tong Ziqing at the back of the crowd in a low voice. Under the contrast of the Densin Qi, Long Yunzhan's cold face appeared somewhat pale. That pair of azure-blue eyes was faintly suffused with a somewhat complicated flowing light. The man called Long Outyin. There was a smell of kindred to him. However, there was something different. It made him feel like he wanted to take the initiative to get close to her, but at the same time he was a little afraid. This was the first time Long Yunzhan had such a feeling. Perhaps their voices had caught Long Outyin's attention. Or perhaps it was the look in his eyes that made Long Outyin notice it. Long Outyin's eyes, which seemed to have been washed by ice and were filled with bloodlust, suddenly met Long Outyin's gaze. Long Yunzhan instantly felt a chill rise from the bottom of his feet to his brain. His face suddenly turned pale. His body trembled slightly as he was not used to it. What's wrong? Tong Ziqing's eyes were filled with concern. Are you feeling unwell after the yin qi entered your body? Long Yunzhan shook his head, and when he looked at Long Outyin again, that person had already moved his gaze away. However, the pressure on his body did not dissipate because of this. Lord Demon Dragon. The girl's clear voice sounded a bit displeased as she warned, if you don't know your place, then don't follow me. That Lord Demon Dragon, these 4 words, was obviously filled with ridicule. Long Outyin retracted his aura as he shrugged his shoulders. This isn't seeing a little companion, this seat is too tall, happy your head. Yiqing Luo glanced at him coldly, don't have any ideas on my people. I don't have the time to guard against Huang Wuyo and at the same time, guard against you. 7th young miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th young miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5303. Long Outyin's sinister eyes revealed a sinister smile that didn't seem like a smile. Even if he was smiling. It also made one feel horrified. Little thing, I am here specially to help you. Yiqing Luo sneered, why should I believe you? Towards Long Outyin, she could only confirm that this person had no ill intentions. But it was not to the extent of trusting him. After all, this person was hard to control and couldn't be understood. Long Outyin clicked his tongue. You're making me sad by saying that. Immediately after, he changed the topic. I didn't expect. You actually have such a little fellow by your side. I have underestimated you. Yiqing Luo's eyes turned cold as she warned in a low voice. You are bored and want to mess around. You can mess around with Huang Wuyo, but don't touch my people. Long Outyin snorted lightly as the sinister smile on his lips deepened. He is not your little lover, why are you so nervous? Yiqing Luo and the rest walked for a long time. Other than the strange plants that filled the sky, there were no other living creatures. And after walking for a long time, they didn't seem to have reached the end. It was as if they were going around in circles. But Yiqing Luo specially left a mark as a sign. But it didn't return to the place where she left the mark. That meant it wasn't like ghosts hitting the wall. The black plants that filled the sky were like ferocious beasts. Visually, it gave one a feeling that there was no difference. No matter how they walked, it was like walking back and forth on the same spot. And the further they went, the thicker the yin qi in the air. As if it was going to penetrate their skin and pour into their bodies. If this went on, they still hadn't seen Huang Wuyo. This group of people were probably going to be eroded by the yin qi in the mountains. Huang Wuyo's body couldn't possibly recover in such a short period of time, Otherwise he would have gone down the mountain to stir up trouble. He spent so much effort to set up this spatial enchantment. Other than blocking her from finding him and delaying time, there must be other reasons. Just as Yi Qingluo was deep in thought, suddenly there was a rustling sound in the dense fog lingering in the lush forest. A black shadow could be seen faintly. Everyone instantly focused as they looked ahead vigilantly. After several breaths of silence, the sha-sha-sha sound continued, but it did not approach. That voice, is it luring us over? Yen Xiaoyi frowned slightly as she asked Yi Qingluo. Yi Qingluo nodded. This means that Huang Wuyo can no longer hold himself back. Huang Wuyo's psychological warfare was pretty good. First, he used the Densin Qi to create an oppressive pressure on them. The terrifying black plants baring their fangs and brandishing their claws increased the pressure in their hearts. Then it was aimless. It seemed like he was going around in circles, but it wasn't. At this moment, if there was any movement, those who had already been suppressed by the environment and were on the verge of erupting would definitely rush in the direction of the commotion to investigate. Danger lurked in every corner of this place. If he acted rashly, he would definitely fall into the trap. Yi Qingluo looked around. Senior's 5 ghosts, I'll have to trouble you to help me take care of my group of brothers. Xian and I will go over to take a look. Everyone wanted to stop him. But when they saw the man standing beside Yi Qingluo, they didn't open their mouths. If the Overlord was around, he would definitely protect Yi Qingluo well. They couldn't possibly be so passive, waiting for Huang Wuyo to take the initiative to attack. By then it would only make them more passive. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5304. Yi Qingluo and Dmo Xian exchanged glances as they walked towards the direction of the sound. They had just taken a few steps. A black figure was even faster than them as he walked in front. Yi Qingluo's footsteps halted as she looked at that tall back view which cast an elongated shadow under the thick fog, giving off an indescribable charm. She frowned. Lord Demon Dragon, why are you following me? When she shouted out the words, Lord Demon Dragon, no matter how one heard it, it made one feel especially ridiculed. Long Outyin was no exception. He also frowned as his sinister eyes gazed at Yi Qingluo with a smile which didn't look like a smile as he replied naturally, this seed is of course following you, to see if there's anything fun. Yi Qingluo? In this kind of vicious place where a single word of disagreement could trigger a world-class war, probably only Long Outyin would be so heartless to treat this place as a place to play? Yi Qingluo took a look at Long Outyin and looked at the group of brothers who were being protected by the 5 ghosts. After thinking for a moment, she decided to let Long Outyin follow her. At least this unstable factor was following her and there was still Dmo Xian who could control him. If she left Long Outyin behind, who knew if Long Outyin would suddenly act up and take action against the group of brothers? Hence, Yi Qingluo didn't open her mouth to stop him. Yi Qingluo's little hand held onto Dmo Xian's arm as the both of them walked forward carefully. Whereas Long Outyin swaggered as though he was on a field trip as he strode forward without any worries. Yi Qingluo didn't stop him. With such a little white rat to scout the way ahead, she couldn't ask for more. As expected, the instant the 3 of them merged into the dense black forest, a black shadow flashed past and the surrounding plants which were baring their fangs and brandishing their claws were swiftly charging towards them. Those sharp branches and thorny leaves were as though they had opened their bloody mouths in an attempt to swallow the 3 of them. Long Outyin, who was walking right in front, was directly swept into the sky full of plants. Dmo Xian's reaction was swift. The instant Long Outyin fell into the trap, the purple cloud sleeve suddenly waved. A majestic profound ray blocked in front of him and Yi Qingluo. Bam! There was a violent explosion. The plant baring its fangs and brandishing its claws collided with the black light. Seeing that it was unable to devour the 2 of them, more and more plants appeared around them, rushing towards the 2 of them. Densely packed, it directly surrounded Dmo Xian and Yi Qingluo, separated by a profound barrier as they were wrapped together. Even though she was protected in Dmo Xian's arms, Yi Qingluo could hear the horrifying plants around her and the sound of them twisting around her. Yi Qingluo could vaguely see that Long Ao Tian seemed to be sucked into the plant's huge mouth, and she could also see Long Ao Tian's struggling movements, which made those plants seem as though they were swallowing. Yi Qingluo couldn't help but have goosebumps. She rubbed her arms and said, there really is something wrong with these plants. These plants all had mysterious yin qi gathered on them. No matter how he looked at it, it didn't look like a proper plant. She did think of man-eating plants. Unexpectedly, these plants were really man-eating plants. Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes narrowed slightly, as her vision speedily surveyed the surroundings. There had to be a way to control or mutate plants. It can control so many plants. The source was definitely not small. But, with her and Dmo Xian as the epicenter, the surroundings were already covered with layers and layers of thick black plants, which completely blocked Yiqing Luo's vision. Trash 7th Young Mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th Young Mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5305. Yiqing Luo could only use her perception to sense the surroundings to see if there was any strange source. After she sensed it, Yiqing Luo was a little surprised. She wondered how many cultivators' lives had Huang Wuyo sacrificed and how much of their profound energy had he absorbed. Within 100 miles radius, as long as it was within her perception range, it was all covered by Huang Wuyo's profound yin qi. Wasn't he trying to break the God Emperor's seal and escape? According to her deduction, Huang Wuyo's current condition was absolutely not any better. Previously, Huang Wuyo wanted to use his full strength to break the seal, so he waited and waited. Her appearance had ruined Huang Wuyo's plans. This led to Huang Wuyo breaking the seal forcefully. The current Huang Wuyo had at least preserved 60% of his strength, which was already considered very good. Even if Huang Wuyo had used a forbidden technique to absorb other people's profound energy as nourishment, it was also impossible to create such a huge spatial enchantment, and to be able to control so many plants? Just as Yiqing Luo was pondering deeply, suddenly a weak energy, almost undetectable, jumped slightly under her perception. Yiqing Luo opened her eyes and looked straight in that direction. Separated by a dense cluster of spiraling plants, her vision seemed to have penetrated through the plants. Dmo Xian looked at her. Found something? Yiqing Luo nodded. Is there any way to push these strange plants away? Dmo Xian directly used his actions to answer. His sleeves, which looked like flowing purple clouds, fluttered slightly. A formless profound wave suddenly shook the surroundings of the two of them. A majestic aura rippled in the air, causing people to feel horrified as it slowly spread out. The densely packed plants were instantly dispersed by the shockwave. Yiqing Luo confirmed the position, clenched the glower flame fan and leaped up. At the same time, Qi Yin spread its wings and soared into the sky, steadily catching Yiqing Luo. The raging flame was burning the sky full of plants. Ah Xian, go check on Long Out Yin, I'll observe the situation from afar. Yiqing Luo said to Dmo Xian. With Qi Yan. Qi Yan's fire could purify the world's evil. These plants controlled by the mysterious yin qi would be burned by the blazing flames. Yiqing Luo directly rushed towards the place where she had sensed the weak fluctuation earlier. She sat on the back of Qi Yan, her long and narrow eyes narrowed vigilantly, looking at the situation in front of her from a distance. Under the burning of the flames, the plants turned into ashes bit by bit. It was then revealed under the lush plants, the lines that looked like blood veins intertwined on the ground in an intricate and complicated manner. The strands of blood were faintly discernible under the raging flames. As for the place where Yiqing Luo detected the fluctuation earlier, the veins of blood intertwined and formed a strange totem. There, 3 bloody bones were inserted horizontally. Above them, one could still see the blood that slowly slid to the ground and spread among the blood wisps. It looked extremely terrifying. It was that blood bone, controlling these plants, or rather, the source of this spatial barrier. Yiqing Luo made Qi Yan lower its altitude and slightly nearer. He could see it clearly. Among the blood veins on the ground, every place where the totem was drawn, there were these 3 blood bones. It could be seen that her guess was right. These blood bones should be the bones of those cultivators whose profound energy had been absorbed by Huang Wuyo. This Huang Wuyo was really vicious and merciless to the extreme, destroying the cultivators' profound energy and profound jade heart. Even the corpses were not spared. Trash 7th Young Mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th Young Mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5306. She knew the source of these strange plants and where they came from. It was much easier to resolve this array. Yiqing Luo's fingertips moved and the glower flame fan swept up thousands of huge waves as it surged towards the blood bones on the ground. At the same time, she made the scarlet flame fan spit out raging flames towards the blood bones. But Things didn't proceed as Yi Qing Luo had expected. When the profound energy attacked, the blood traces on the blood bones and the viscous liquid were like a huge open mouth, trying its best to absorb the surging profound energy. And when the raging flames got close to the blood bones, numerous plants pounced on it, using the thick black smoke to form the plants which looked like they were brandishing their claws and fangs to block the raging flames. This sky full of plants. No matter how the raging flames burned, there were plants that pounced forward to protect the blood bones. Yi Qing Luo's expression changed slightly. These blood bones? And this sky full of thick black plants? Could it be? Yi Qing Luo thought of a possibility as her expression changed drastically as she swiftly turned her head to look at Diamo Xian. Ah Xian, this is bad. Huang Wuyo intends to absorb both of our energy. This array. It was not a formation used to trap them at all, but an array that absorbed profound energy. These plants were the medium to absorb the profound energy. Just like when she was at the God Emperor's sealed grounds, she saw those densely packed blood lines. They were all using this medium to absorb a cultivator's energy. No wonder. Previously, when she was protected in Diamo Xian's arms, she was still able to release her perception through the densely packed plants. Probably at that time. These plants were already absorbing Diamo Xian's profound energy, which was condensed into a protective shield. Yi Qing Luo was just about to tell Diamo Xian about this discovery. She heard Diamo Xian's slightly anxious voice rang, "Not good. Lil Luo, our Long Out Yin is missing." This sentence completely interrupted the words that Yi Qing Luo was about to say. Her eyes narrowed and her heart skipped a beat. Long Out Yin had disappeared? Which meant that Long Out Yin wasn't swallowed by those plants. A thought suddenly arose in Yi Qing Luo's mind. Her face turned green and white as she immediately surveyed the surroundings alertly, her fingertips gripping the glower flame fan tighter. But, the next moment, her body suddenly tensed up. Something cold pressed against her skin. Before he could react, her entire body was directly strangled by a strong force, directly falling from Qi Yan's back, directly falling in the direction of a certain blood bone. Yi Qing Luo had just moved. An intense pain came from his skin. It was as if something was slowly corroding. She lowered her eyes and looked at the black chain that had suddenly wrapped around her waist. It was as if there was a thick black mist surrounding it. Moreover, Yi Qing Luo also saw a familiar face on the iron chain fatty. The man who was as cold as cast, curled his thin lips. Between his cold and sinister eyes, there was a hint of coldness. A dim light flickered in his eyes as if it was covered with frost. Long Out Yin. Yi Qing Luo spat out 3 words with a pause. That strong suction force caused her to be unable to utter a single word. Under the pull of the suction force and the iron chain around her waist, her entire body abruptly melted into the bloody bone. Vaguely, Yi Qing Luo seemed to see Diamo Xian swiftly rushing over after splitting the sky full of plants. His hand held onto hers. But, the next moment, she lost all her consciousness as she fell into darkness. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please collect it gently. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please collect it gently. Chapter 5307. Yi Qing Luo was awakened by the heat. The burning sensation on her skin, as if she was about to be devoured by the flames, caused her to open her eyes. What greeted her eyes was a huge patch of red. The flames were swaying, giving off coquettish sparks, like a moving fire snake, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. Ah Xian. Yi Qing Luo discovered that she was in the middle of a burning fire. What was going on? There was no sound from the surroundings. There was no response from Diamo Xian. In the quiet space, other than the sound of the burning flames, there was only her heavy breathing. Yi Qing Luo wanted to move, thinking of a way to leave this fire. But the moment she moved, she heard the sound of iron chains rubbing against the ground. There was a force on her waist, imprisoning her in place. Yi Qing Luo recalled that before she fell into darkness, she seemed to be bound by an iron chain. That iron chain. If she remembered correctly, it seemed to be the iron chain that bound Long Out Yin when she first met him. Was Long Out Yin? He schemed against her? Yi Qing Luo's slender fingers clenched tightly, a trace of coldness flashed past her eyes. This was not the first time Long Out Yin schemed against her. She actually thought that such an arrogant person like Long Out Yin would not bother to play any tricks in the dark. She had always thought that. Long Out Yin might have had a different opinion about Feng Guo, her mother. So, they were not considered friends but not enemies either. But Long Outyin schemed against her once again. What was he trying to do? And where was this place? Yiqing Luo endured the piercing pain from the blazing fire, and that uncomfortable feeling of even breathing was boiling hot, as she tried her best to open her eyes, surveying the surroundings. It was best to determine where she was before making any plans. But as far as she could see, other than the burning flames, there was nothing else. Probably her body had gone through several rounds of transformation and consolidation. Or probably this kind of flame had other uses. Although the heat was high, but it was not enough to directly burn her into ashes. But, according to the sky full of flames and the discomfort from her body, she had to leave this place as soon as possible. Otherwise, she might really be burned into ashes. For these flames. Of course he had to use a stronger fire to devour it. Yiqing Luo concentrated and wanted to summon Qi Yan out. However, when she concentrated her mental power into the pet space, there was only silence. It was completely empty, he couldn't feel anything. Her connection with the pet space had been cut off. Not only that, Yiqing Luo also discovered that the azure aqua set on her hands and neck, as well as the profound phoenix ring, had all been removed. Under the raging flames, there was only the dim and lusterless azure dew bracelet on her delicate jade-like arm, appearing extremely lonely. When Yiqing Luo looked over carefully, she could faintly see. On the surface of the azure dew bracelet, there was a faintly discernible floating black yin qi. This was the mysterious yin qi. Someone had used profound yin energy to seal her azure dew bracelet. Yiqing Luo probed her divine sense into the azure dew bracelet, and sure enough, it was blocked by something. In other words, she had nothing to rely on now. Stripping her of everything she relied on was to prevent her from escaping from this fiery land. What is Long Outyin trying to do? No, that's not right, it should be, Long Outyin and Huang Wuyo, what are they trying to do? There was no azure dew bracelet, no azure dew artifact. Just relying on her alone. She wanted to break free from the iron chain on her waist and escape this fiery land. I'm afraid it would be a little difficult. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentle with your love, everyone please collect it. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentle with your love and hit me. Chapter 5308. Ding, suddenly the sound of metal clashing was heard. Yiqing Luo hadn't even had the time to identify where the sound came from. Following that, she heard a familiar, sinister and treacherous voice, laughing sinisterly, "Demon Dragon, you've done very well." That voice wasn't it. Huang Wuyo's voice. Following that was Long Outyin's icy cold voice. "This seat merely hates that woman's daughter, it has nothing to do with you, don't flatter yourself. This seat is able to obtain this vessel no matter what, it's all because of you." Huang Wuyo didn't mind Long Outyin's rudeness. When this seat fuses with that vessel which can nurture the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade, swallow the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade, obtain the Divine Phoenix's inheritance and unify the world. This seat will definitely let you become the Lord Demon Dragon who is second only to one and above all others. Long Outyin snorted coldly, "If this seat wants, I can totally override your head, who do you think you are?" He paused for a moment and continued to humiliate, "Revered Wu Yu, if this seat wants to deal with you based on your current state, can you stop this seat?" Huang Wuyo didn't make a sound. But from the rhythm of his breathing, Yiqing Luo could roughly feel that Huang Wuyo was suppressing his own anger. After all, based on Huang Wuyo's temperament, he had always been arrogant and looked down on everyone. To be humiliated by Long Outyin in this way. If Huang Wuyo was at his peak, he would definitely tear Long Outyin apart with his bare hands. But Huang Wuyo endured it. He opened his mouth and his voice was much colder. "Then this seat has to thank Lord Demon Dragon for showing mercy." This sentence was said with extreme ridicule. Long Outyin seemed as though he couldn't hear the hidden anger in Huang Wuyo's words as he calmly accepted Huang Wuyo's gratitude. "It's good that you know, this seat doesn't want to be involved with you, so this seat shall leave first." Huang Wuyo opened his mouth again. "Don't tell me Lord Demon Dragon doesn't want to see how that last Feng Qing Luo is refined into this vessel? This seat knows that woman's daughter isn't living well, that's enough." After Long Outyin finished his words, there was no more sound from him. Outside, the sinister and cold profound Yin Qi was wreaking havoc. Huang Wuyo roared furiously, "Long Outyin! Long Outyin! How dare you be rude to this seat? Once I merge the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade with the vessel, I will kill you first." The commotion lasted for a long time. Yiqing Luo's brows creased tightly as she roughly understood that she might be in a container, being refined by the intense flame. Huang Wuyo was planning to, after refining her and the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade, he would use them directly? This is too sinister. Huang Wuyo had even specifically cut off her Azure Water Divine Artifact and the mental magnetic field that connected it to the Azure Water Bracelet and the pet space. It seemed like they had made sufficient preparations. However, the conversation between Huang Wuyo and Long Outyen had transmitted a message. The current Huang Wuyo seemed to be in a very bad condition. Huang Wuyo endured Long Outyen's blunt insults. As for Long Outyen, his attitude was insolent, as though he could kill Huang Wuyo anytime he wanted. In other words, as long as she could think of a way to leave this refined vessel, he could deal with Huang Wuyo directly. Of course, the prerequisite was, she wouldn't be refined by Huang Wuyo directly. She had to think of a way. The current her was still able to withstand this kind of intense flame. But as time dragged on, no one knew what accidents would happen. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentler and collect me. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentler and hit me. Chapter 5309. Yiqing Luo tried to nudge her body. The iron chain around her waist had imprisoned her so that she couldn't move at all. She pursed her lips as her vision swept across the blazing flames, as though her fingers were surrounded by the flames. Under the illumination of the flames, her fingertips seemed to be crystal clear, like a beautiful jade in the midst of the flames. And on that beautiful jade fingertip, there was an exquisitely carved profound phoenix ring, which looked like a flying phoenix, but now it was empty. She rubbed it with her fingers. She wasn't used to it. Usually, whenever she thought of Diamo Xian and saw the profound phoenix ring, it would feel like Diamo Xian was by her side. But now, she habitually looked and touched it. But it was empty without the touch of the ring. Huang Wuyo obviously knew about the connection between this profound phoenix ring and Diamo Xian. Yiqing Luo recalled that before she fell into darkness, she vaguely saw Diamo Xian flying towards her. Most likely, Diamo Xian might be nearby now. Thinking of Diamo Xian, her long and narrow eyes glowed with a bright light. The blazing flames couldn't cover up the radiance in her eyes. She believed that her Xian would definitely find her. And before that, she had to protect herself and think of a way to leave this refining vessel. Yiqing Luo could roughly deduce from the heat of the refining vessel and the intensity of the flames. If this refining vessel wanted to refine her, it would need at least 5 days. She wasn't sure how long she had been unconscious. At this time, the discomfort she felt was only a prickling pain on her skin and her breathing was a little hot. She should be able to hold on for another day or two. But after all, this was Huang Wuyo's refining vessel. It was easy to give birth to heresy. Moreover, everything she knew so far was just her guess. The most important thing now was to think of a way to break free from the iron chains. These iron chains seemed to have a close connection with Long Outyen. It seemed like it was the iron chains that sealed Long Outyen's body. Back then, her mother was able to seal Long Outyen with the iron chains. She would definitely be able to deal with this iron chain. Time passed by slowly. About 2 days' time. Yiqing Luo finally sensed a clue from the iron chain. She focused her mind and endured the discomfort of being burned by the raging fire. She released her spiritual perception ability and sensed the source of the power of the iron chain. After exhausting his profound energy and mental energy, he spent a tremendous amount of effort to finally cut the iron chains around his waist and 4 limbs. Her body, without the support of strength, fell heavily on the fiery ground. The raging fire dragon instantly drowned her. Although it was comfortable to be free from the chains. But right now Yiqing Luo wasn't any better. She sat on the ground, her whole body drenched in sweat. Her nostrils were filled with thin hot air. The scorching flames burned her skin red. Over the past 2 days, the temperature of the refining vessel had been increasing. When the burning flames brushed past her skin, the stinging sensation became more and more obvious and persistent. Her current body, no matter how many times it had been recast and strengthened, under the power of this flame, it was still unbearable. Especially, as the black smoke-like mysterious yin qi in the refining vessel gradually thickened. Yiqing Luo could feel that the divine phoenix profound heart jade in her heart was faintly agitated. She wanted to suppress it, but even she herself couldn't control herself. Revered Wu Yu. Suddenly, a hurried voice was heard. That person was obviously in a hurry as he knocked heavily against the refining vessel. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Di Zun, please collect it gently. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please collect it gently. Chapter 53:10. A heavy collision sound was heard, causing the entire container to let out a buzzing sound. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. Just a touch and she actually felt her entire body trembling slightly. That person's strength was so huge? Not allowing Yiqing Luo to think further, that person's words diverted Yiqing Luo's attention. Revered Wuyu, it's bad. The cultivators from Earth Realm, Heaven Realm and God Realm have all attacked the Devil region. Even that demonic succubus woman had betrayed us at the last minute and told the world mercenary group where our army was hiding. Right now, all of our hidden armies have been completely destroyed. Just as that person's words landed, a heavy, heart-wrenching cough was heard. Huang Wuyo's voice was so sinister that it seemed to be covered in frost. What did you say? That person seemed to be frightened, and after some time, he trembled as he repeated what he said. Following that, he hurriedly said, Revered Wuyu, not only that, the World Mercenary Group and Feng family have joined hands and led the other 3 realms cultivators to surround Mount Godless. Huang Wuyo laughed lowly, and that laughter was so sinister that it made one's hair stand. As he laughed, he suddenly smashed something. You're indeed the brothers that my daughter brought up. Each and every one of you are so affectionate and loyal. I'll grant them their wish. Revered Wuyu, what do you want to do? That person suddenly screamed in terror, and in the end, there was only a miserable cry and no other sound. Huang Wuyo slowly stood up as his body swayed and his footsteps were heavy. Yiqing Luo could hear the footsteps getting closer. Following that, there was another slight tremor. Above her head, Huang Wuyo's sinister voice floated over. Those brothers of yours are indeed affectionate and loyal. This seat refines you into this seat's body in front of them. Do you think they can't wait to cut this seat into 1,000 pieces, or because you have become a part of this seat's body, they can't do anything to this seat? His laughter was sinister and a little crazy. He laughed for a long time. Probably because no one could give him a response, he carelessly knocked on the container again. Maybe, you've already been refined into a container. Then I'll devour you in front of them. Yiqing Luo knitted her brows tightly. Just now, the conversation between that man and Huang Wuyo had shocked her. Had everyone in the 3 realms banded together to surround the Fiend Domain and deal with Huang Wuyo? Also, what was Huang Wuyo's hidden army? There was not a hint of panic in Huang Wuyo's tone. It was as if the so-called joint attack of the 3 realms was expected. As for him, victory was within his grasp. What's more, she was using her to provoke her companions. Yiqing Luo's heart was faintly uneasy. Did Huang Wuyo have a trick up his sleeve, or was it because, after refining her, he would be able to obtain 100% of his strength? Was that why he was fearless? No. She could not let her brothers fight alone. She had to find a way to leave this refining vessel. Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up with sparks of fire. Under the sky full of raging flames, it wasn't suppressed by the light. Just at this moment, Yiqing Luo's peripheral vision suddenly swept across something. By the time she fixed her eyes on it, there was only an endless raging fire. As though everything was just her misconception. Yiqing Luo was certain. Earlier at that moment, she had vaguely seen a flash of purple light in that direction. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:11. Purple light? In this raging flame, other than the sky full of red, there was no other color. The sudden appearance of the purple light. Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes narrowed slightly as she immediately headed towards the direction of the purple light without hesitation. The moment she moved, the surrounding flames seemed to have grown eyes as it swallowed her up. The increasingly intense scorching feeling eroded her body and mind, spreading to her limbs and bones. Yiqing Luo gave a muffled groan. No matter how much she could endure. Under this kind of scorching flame, the feeling of burning her into ashes was still very uncomfortable. Her eyes were red. Her body was suffering from the intense pain of the flames. She couldn't help but feel irritated and stuffy. Her fingertips brushed past her fingers which were already empty, suppressing the fickleness in her heart as she tensed up her nerves. In this refining vessel she absolutely could not release her profound qi. All the energy would become the vessel's energy. She knew. Huang Wuyo was provoking her. He intentionally used the news from the outside world and the psychological pressure caused by the sky full of flames to agitate her. Once she panicked, she wanted to rush out of the refining vessel. Then it would go according to Huang Wuyo's intentions. Yiqing Luo continued to move forward. That raging flame followed swiftly. As though it was staring at her, no matter what, it had to swallow her up. By the time she reached the direction of the purple light, it was already the time for a stick of incense to burn. Yiqing Luo was already exhausted, all the sweat on her body evaporated under the intense flames, making her feel extremely uncomfortable. She forcefully exhaled a few mouthfuls of hot air as she looked around. But there was no trace of the purple light. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips as she slowly sat down to rest. Earlier along the way, the pain of contending against the raging flames was simply unbearable for ordinary people. If she was slightly careless, it was very likely that she would be completely swallowed up by that sky full of flames. But, in this process, Yiqing Luo obviously discovered that her body's degree of heat resistance was getting higher and higher. Even the raging flames wrapped around her face. She felt that it wasn't that unbearable anymore. Other than the huge expanse of raging flames, which kept surging into her body, as though it wanted to refine her internal organs through the raging flames. There was also the profound jade heart in his chest, which was also unceasingly stirring. She could already endure being engulfed by such raging flames. This was a good sign, as long as he could stand the heat. She would have a greater chance of escaping this place. Just then, suddenly that purple light flashed past Yiqing Luo's eyes once again. This time it was extremely obvious in front of Yiqing Luo. It was obvious. Yiqing Luo seemed to have sensed the other party's presence at one glance. Her pink lips moved slightly as she spat out 3 words, Zhu Wuxin. As soon as he opened his mouth, a heat wave rushed into his mouth. Her throat was dry and prickly. That purple light, it was Zhu Wuxin's aura. What was going on? Not allowing Yiqing Luo to think deeply. The purple light disappeared in front of Yiqing Luo very quickly. But Yiqing Luo saw it clearly. In the direction where the purple light disappeared. Yiqing Luo only hesitated for several breaths before she lifted her feet and walked towards that direction with difficulty. Zhu Wuxin might know how to leave this refining vessel. As time went by, Yiqing Luo's footsteps became heavier and heavier. She felt as though she was walking on the spot. The direction of Zhu Wuxin's aura was obviously very near, but it seemed as though it was far away. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:12. But that faint purple light seemed to have given Yiqing Luo her last hope. Relying on her amazing willpower, Yiqing Luo was actually close to the refining vessel's body under the burning of the raging flame. Yes, the body. Yiqing Luo could clearly see the outline of the body that was being burned by the raging flame. Vaguely, she could see the treacherous and mysterious totem jumping in the fire. Yiqing Luo estimated in her heart. This refining vessel was about the size of an ordinary family's main hall. But it was difficult to take a step here. She was still suppressing the discomfort and only managed to walk a few hundred meters of distance. But she had already touched the body, then she was not far from finding the exit. This thought made Yiqing Luo's sweaty eyes slightly sober. Clang, a slight collision sound. Yiqing Luo's gaze followed it. Faint purple light surged on the totem on the body of the weapon. Yiqing Luo stretched out her hand. Boom! A fire dragon mixed with fire and lightning fell down. Yiqing Luo's hand suddenly felt hot. Following that, the blazing flame wrapped around her. At the same time, Huang Wuyo's furious voice came from outside the refining vessel. You're really the daughter of Ge-er. Your life is so tough that you can still stir up trouble in there? Following that was the sound of Huang Wuyo's footsteps. Step by step like a clap of thunder. Yiqing Luo shut her eyes tightly. Her whole body felt like it was being burnt by the raging flame. She could even smell a thick burnt smell on her body. But when the raging flame was wrapping around her, she could feel an inexplicable aura surging rapidly from her body. That was a kind of power that even she couldn't control. The buzzing sound in her ears made her dizzy. In front of her, there was only a thick red. I'd like to see how you're going to break my formation. Huang Wuyo's tone was filled with anger as he sneered. Although Yiqing Luo was fighting against the raging flame, but for some reason her 5 senses were very sensitive. She could clearly hear that Huang Wuyo seemed to be searching for something outside the refining vessel and then stood beside it. A drop of thick black blood fell from the top of his head. Yiqing Luo could vaguely smell the faint scent of blood. And the moment that drop of black blood fell into the raging flames. Boom boom boom, the entire crafting vessel instantly erupted with a strong dark force. Yiqing Luo's entire body was sent flying by this force, crashing heavily onto the body of the weapon. She didn't even have the strength to stabilize her body. She slid down from the artifact and fell to the ground. The increasingly intense and terrifying fire dragon bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it twisted towards Yiqing Luo. Originally, I wanted to slowly refine you. Since you don't know what's good for you, then you shall follow that divine phoenix profound heart jade of yours and become mine. Yiqing Luo's ears were buzzing non-stop, as though something was about to burst her eardrums. Her breathing became heavier. The scalding heat made her feel as if her throat was on fire. The tyrannical power in her body was still rampaging through her limbs and bones. It was like a volcano that was about to erupt. Oh, she moaned softly. One of his hands moved slowly with some difficulty. In the end, it was on her abdomen. The scalding heat energy was gathering towards this direction bit by bit. Pain, her abdomen, so painful. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:13. Yiqing Luo's breathing tightened bit by bit. In the haze, she saw the faint purple light encircling her bit by bit. In the end, it encircled her waist. The fusion of the two energies made the pain in her body slightly alleviated. What is this? Huang Wuyo's shocked voice was heard from outside the refining vessel. Following that was the sound of stumbling footsteps as though something was colliding. No, how is this possible? How could she possibly have such powerful energy? The refining vessel was not only refining Yiqing Luo's body, not only refining Yiqing Luo's divine phoenix profound jade heart, but also it was refining her soul, her everything. Logically speaking, in this refining vessel, Yiqing Luo's energy would be refined along with the refining vessel, becoming the energy after the refinement. How could she possibly be able to explode such powerful energy? So powerful that even he felt horrified. And the current Yiqing Luo totally didn't know the shock in Huang Wuyo's heart. Her hands were tightly pressed against her abdomen, her fingers wanted to exert force, but she forcefully endured it. The two small hands which were still fair under the raging flames, were now bursting with green veins. The energy which spread from her abdomen to her limbs and bones seemed to have broken through the seal in her body. A steady flow of profound energy broke through the blockage in her body, attacking the heat which was like boiling water. Yiqing Luo felt the swelling pain in her abdomen, making her feel uncomfortable. But the energy which spread throughout her body made her greedily absorb the profound jade heart, bit by bit merging with her body. She didn't know how long had passed. When Yiqing Luo opened her eyes again, she could no longer feel the heat in the raging flames. As though she was already used to this heat. As though she was already immune to the heat in the refining vessel. She didn't feel any discomfort at all. The faint purple light encircled her abdomen bit by bit, before finally returning to a peaceful state. At the same time, the unbearable swelling pain also dissipated in an instant. Yiqing Luo's eyes drooped, as she touched her abdomen curiously. Just now. What was going on? Why did she feel as though there was another energy which helped her? Without much time to think, the refining vessel suddenly shook violently. Her body suddenly staggered, and her whole body fell down along with the shaking of the refining vessel. At the same time, the flames that were spreading in the surroundings also gradually subsided as the refining vessel shook. What are you waiting for? Come out now. A clear voice whispered in her ear. Yiqing Luo raised her head and saw a bright ray of light right on top of her head. That was the exit. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes lit up slightly as she speedily got up and headed towards that exit. No. This seat absolutely won't let you escape. Huang Wuyo's furious and frenzied voice was like bursts of thunder, blasting into Yiqing Luo's ears. A strong pressure came crashing down from the sky, as though it wanted to press Yiqing Luo back into the refining vessel. Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes narrowed slightly as her fingertips moved slightly and a bewitching red profound glow encircled her. There was a loud bang sound. Yiqing Luo broke through the brilliant rays. Then a hand grabbed her wrist and pulled her to the side. What entered her eyes was a strange and cold basement. In such a huge space there were only 8 candles, swaying, flickering, illuminating the surrounding environment. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler and collect. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler and collect. Chapter 53:14. Yiqing Luo took a clear look at the person in front of her. It was no longer the man in the fiery red robe. Right now, he was dressed in a snow-white robe, which contrasted against that pale face of his. His lips were devoid of any color of blood. A pair of chilly eyes congealed deeply on Yiqing Luo, as though it was filled with countless emotions. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she clasped the man's wrist and felt his pulse. "Zhuwu-xen, what's the matter with you?" Her fingertips had yet to touch the man's wrist when it was avoided. His voice was chilly as he replied calmly, "I'm fine, now isn't the time to worry about me." Yiqing Luo's brows creased even tighter as the gaze she used to look at Zhuwu-xen was filled with suspicion. Zhuwu-xen avoided her pulse checking. Apparently it was because his pulse was extremely weak now. She stretched out her hand and was about to forcefully clasp Zhuwu-xen's wrist to check on his condition. Zhuwu-xen suddenly clasped her wrist as his pale lips spat out two words, "Be careful." He used a little strength and pulled the young lady into his arms. Her legs swiftly moved backwards. Bam! The intense profound wave caused that candle flame to sway, as though it was brandishing its claws, searching for its prey in the darkness. After avoiding that attack, that icy cold large palm on her wrist had already shifted away. Under the darkness, the man's labored breathing could be heard clearly. Something wasn't right with Zhuwu-xen's condition. But she didn't give Zhuwu-xen a chance to check on his body. Yiqing Luo frowned as she took out a medicine bottle from her bosom and stuffed it into Zhuwu-xen's hand. "Huang Wuyo should be in a weakened state now, so it's easier to deal with him. After I settle him, I'll bring you away." That bottle of medicinal pills was specially refined by her to be carried around with her. It had the miraculous effect of prolonging one's life and healing injuries. It was because she had several experiences that she was unable to retrieve the medicinal pills which were stored in her realm space in case her mental energy was disconnected. She specially hid it in the most secretive place on her body. Huang Wuyo had only taken away her profound phoenix ring. He would never have thought that she would have hidden other pills on her body. Yiqing Luo slowly stood up as she stood in front of Zhuwu-xen. The girl's figure was slender and could not be considered tall. However, it gave people an indescribable sense of security. The girl's slender fingers gently moved in the darkness. A flame feather fan appeared between her slender fingers. She glanced sideways at Zhu Wuxin. Her tone was calm and her words were firm. "You stay alive and wait for me. You can't die without my permission." As soon as she finished speaking, she leaped into the air, her fiery red dress drawing a beautiful arc in the air. When the glower flame fan opened up, Yiqing Luo could clearly feel a huge surge of energy in her body, surging and surging, following the music in her body, rapidly spreading to the glower flame fan. The glowing flame fan was bound to her soul. When she was refining the vessel, both her body and soul were being refined, so she was unable to summon her gourd flame fan. After leaving the refining vessel, Yiqing Luo also gave it a try. The connection between her and the sacred beast, as well as the azure water divine armament, was still broken. However, only the gourd flame fan could sense her. This was enough to show that Huang Wuyo still had some restraining fear towards the four sacred beasts and the azure water divine armament. Even though he felt that the refinement had a 100% success rate, he was still fully prepared. There was some kind of array in this place which suppressed Yiqing Luo's mental energy, the sacred beast and the azure water divine armament's connection. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:15. Then, as long as Huang Wuyo died, all the problems would be solved. Yiqing Luo's target was very clear. Directly towards the direction where the profound energy came from. The glower flame fan on her fingertips swept up an imposing profound wave. The majestic air waves surged in the entire sealed underground room. The ground shook and the stone walls started to crumble due to the strong surrounding air pressure. Yiqing Luo's gaze shifted to her own hand as her eyes shone slightly. This feeling? It was as though all the energy which had been sealed in her body for a long time had been released. Furthermore, she could control her own power without any qualms. She didn't feel the slightest strain or the slightest bit of backlash. It was totally, unprecedentedly relaxed. How could her body, under the circumstances where she had not advanced to profound grade, suddenly undergo such an earth-shattering change? Without much time to think, Yiqing Luo's attack had already landed directly on that black figure in the dark. Yiqing Luo's action of escaping from the refining vessel had obviously disrupted the other party's plans and rhythm. His furious attack was also avoided by Zhu Wuxian and Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's counterattack was avoided by him. Under the dim candlelight, one could vaguely see the figure who was shrouded in a black cloak. Yiqing Luo's brows narrowed slightly as her fingertips moved swiftly. The raging profound energy was like a fire snake as it swiftly coiled towards the other party. The profound wave spread extremely quickly. In just a moment, the other party was trapped within her attack range. Fengqing Luo. The other party's voice was filled with resentment as it carried a vicious murderous intent, as though he was extremely infuriated. Yiqing Luo only felt that this voice sounded a little strange, but she couldn't tell what was strange about it. But she didn't think too much about it, because at this moment, she was completely certain that the conversation between Huang Wuyo and Long Ao Tian in the refining vessel had been verified. The current Huang Wuyo had forcefully broken through the Divine Phoenix Seal previously and then expended a huge amount of energy to set up such a huge trap in Mount Wuren. Even if there was a sinister array which could replenish his energy. But after all, his deeds had already spread throughout the Devil Domain and other realms. Other than his corpse puppets which could capture food for him or the captives from the battlefield, he had no other way to obtain sufficient food. The current Huang Wuyo, his strength was in a weakened state. That was to say, now was the best chance to kill Huang Wuyo. Yiqing Luo swept upwards, the glower flame fan turned into a sharp blade, aiming straight for the opponent's vitals. Fengqing Luo, can you really do it? Suddenly, the black figure's voice became low, revealing a strange gentleness. It was a gentleness that was completely different from Huang Wuyo's ruthless and sinister voice. Meanwhile, Yiqing Luo stood in front of the black figure at a close distance as she saw that person's sleeves moving slightly and the black cloak which was covering his head slowly fell off. The candlelight swayed even more violently. It clearly illuminated the gentle and elegant face of the person in front of him. It was a handsome face. His facial features were refined, and he looked like a noble young master, noble and awe-inspiring. In particular, those glass-like eyes seemed to contain the warmth of the spring breeze. Yiqing Luo's action stopped just like that. A pair of long and narrow eyes widened in disbelief. Widened. How could it possibly be him? Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:16. Gu Jingyu? Yiqing Luo's pupils kept constricting as she looked at that familiar face in disbelief. That man's thin lips curled upwards as he gave a warm smile. That smile was like a spring breeze. Yiqing Luo was stunned on the spot. And it was this moment of days. The handsome and refined man's eyes flashed past a trace of ruthless murderous intent. That hand which was shrouded in the black cloak suddenly rose up. Yiqing Luo saw a flash of silvery color. Her body's instinct towards danger and her acute senses had already made the most intuitive evasive move the minute she sensed the danger and murderous intent. But, no matter how swift her reaction was, earlier that moment of daze was enough to give the opponent a chance to take action against her. Yiqing Luo. Zhu Wuxian's tone was filled with a rare panic. He stood up abruptly as he dashed towards Yiqing Luo's direction. He who was seriously injured, how would he be able to make it in time? Yiqing Luo managed to avoid her vital parts, but that sharp blade which was covered with strange black totem had already broken her face. Blood splattered under the candlelight. A burst of piercing pain and bone-piercing cold seemed to seep into her bone marrow. After Yiqing Luo avoided it, she raised her head abruptly as she looked at Gu Jingyu. Her hand swiftly pressed on the wound which had been slashed open, blocking the acupoints on the wound to prevent the poison on the sharp blade from entering deep into her body. This raise of her head made Yiqing Luo's expression turn uglier. She saw Gu Jingyu, licking his lips in disappointment after his strike failed as he raised the sharp blade. The blood that splashed in the air and was about to fall suddenly turned into sparkling blood beads and flew toward Gu Jingyu. About 4 to 5 blood beads which were formed from her blood entered a palm-sized gourd which Gu Jingyu had taken out. He kept the small gourd and hung it on his waist. When he raised his eyes to look at Yiqing Luo, his thin lips curled into a sneer of ridicule. Fengqing Luo, you won't be complacent for long. This seat will eventually refine you to become this seat's strength. After Yiqing Luo sealed the blood on the wound on her face, she speedily flipped over and with a movement of her fingertips, she set off profound waves towards the other party. But after all, the other party's face made Yiqing Luo unable to harden her heart. In front of him, the figure shrouded in darkness instantly turned into a thick black fog and blended into the darkness. Meanwhile, a large number of zombie-like puppets bearing their fangs and brandishing their claws suddenly swarmed in from all directions. It was a corpse puppet. Furthermore, they were a bunch of defective goods. These defective products were clearly not completed. Their bodies reeked of a rancid stench and their flesh was turned over. Almost none of them were in perfect condition. There were at least 100 undead corpse puppets. There were so many of them that it seemed like they wanted to fill up the entire basement. The entire basement was instantly filled with the disgusting stench of decay and the smell of blood. It blocked Yiqing Luo from following the profound Yin Qi to chase after Gu Jingyu. Let's leave this place first. Yiqing Luo didn't hesitate any further as she turned around and helped Zhu Wuxian up, as her fingers which were holding the glower flame fan tightened slightly. If they stayed for a while longer. She and Zhu Wuxian weren't killed by the undead corpse puppets. But they were killed by this bunch of disgusting undead corpse puppets. After taking the medicinal pill, Zhu Wuxian's complexion looked slightly better but his lips were still pale. When Yiqing Luo helped him up and left, most of his body weight was on Yiqing Luo. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:17. Yiqing Luo could clearly feel the coldness on Zhu Wuxian's body, as though he had just defrosted out from the ice cellar. His body was really not normal. Hold on tight to me. Yiqing Luo kept the misgivings in her heart as she locked Zhu Wuxian's waist with one hand, as she instructed him in a low voice. After that, she raised her wrist as the raging flame fan opened up. Bam bam bam, the profound rays were like a waterfall as it poured downwards, instantly drowning the entire underground room. The majestic and powerful profound energy swallowed everything in the surroundings. Even the sturdy underground room started to crack as it shook incessantly. Fine stones, one by one, fell downwards, attacking the raging profound wave which formed into a tornado. At the same time, Yiqing Luo's surroundings seemed to be enveloped by a layer of red glow which was wrapped in raging flames, dazzling and piercing. A swoosh sound was heard, followed by a loud rumbling sound. Yiqing Luo brought Zhu Wuxian as she dashed out of the underground room. What entered their eyes was a dense forest which was enveloped in eerie yin qi. The surroundings gave off a rotten and damp smell with a faint stench. When they raised their eyes through the strange-shaped leaves, they could see the dark sky. Just as the two of them walked out of the underground room. Behind them, the place where the underground room was located had suddenly exploded. Yiqing Luo turned her head back. He could still vaguely see that the defective undead corpse puppets had been torn apart by the dark force that was like a raging flame. Together with the basement, it had become a ruin. Yiqing Luo only used her perceptive power to sweep one round, and after ascertaining that there were no other living beings in the surroundings, she supported Zhu Wuxian and left without any hesitation. When she brought Zhu Wuxian out of the uninhabited mountain, she then understood. Gu Jingyu didn't even have the intention to battle with her, choosing to leave without any hesitation. This was not only because the other party's ability was not as good as her who had completely transformed. The bigger reason was probably because the entire devil region was no longer the same as before. Dark clouds rolled in the sky, forming a patch of darkness. The air was filled with a nauseating smell of blood. Occasionally, lightning flashed across the pitch-black sky. The dark clouds rolled downwards as though a gap had been torn open. And looking over, the devil region, which originally had peculiar buildings, had already been leveled to flat ground. The flames of war continued and smoke rose from all directions. Yiqing Luo's mind suddenly recalled the conversation between Huang Wuyo and his men when she was still refining the vessel. Huang Wuyo was telling the truth. Using undead puppets to wage war on the major realms. Yiqing Luo's expression suddenly changed. Oh no. Everyone in the band of brothers remained in the infernal domain. If she started a war, wouldn't her brothers be in even more danger? She had to rush to the demon palace as soon as possible and meet up with everyone. Yiqing Luo was just planning to support Zhu Wuxian as they headed towards the direction of the devil palace. Suddenly she felt a sharp pain in her abdomen and her face turned pale. She paused for a moment and raised her hand to press on her abdomen. The next moment, she felt an extremely powerful magnetic field surging in her mind, as if some kind of power was returning to her body. On her wrist, the azure dew bracelet that was like a blossoming cherry blossom faintly burned her. Azure dew bracelet, vast water artifact. He was back. The connection between her and the vast water divine artifact was re-established. Yi Qing Luo's breathing paused as she hadn't had the time to contact her companions in the pet space. Her abdomen was in intense pain once again. Following that, her entire body's energy seemed to have been sucked out as her vision turned black, as she fell into darkness. Vaguely, she heard Zhu Wuxia calling out her name anxiously, Yi Qing Luo? Yi Qing Luo. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:18. When Yi Qing Luo woke up once again, she was lying in a slightly dark room and there was a faint sandalwood fragrance which smelled nice. She glanced sideways as she surveyed the surroundings. This was a spacious bedroom and the furnishings displayed the owner's taste. She slowly propped herself up as she tried to circulate her profound jade heart. Warm profound energy spread through her limbs and bones. Perhaps it was because she didn't have enough rest, so even though she had just woken up, her body still felt a little tired. She rubbed her brows as she recalled what happened before she fainted. At that time she didn't even have a chance to react. The moment her tummy hurt, she lost consciousness. She lowered her head as she took a look at her flat tummy as she frowned slightly. Could it be? Huang Wuyo had made use of her blood to execute some forbidden art in an attempt to destroy her body? Suddenly, the room door was pushed open as a figure walked in with quick steps. Yi Qing Luo raised her eyes and saw a cold and noble-looking Zhu Wuxia dressed in a white long robe walking in front of her. Zhu Wuxia, are you all right? Yi Qing Luo straightened her body as she recalled that Zhu Wuxia's body was not normal when they were in the basement. Zhu Wuxia lit up the candle in the room and as the candle flame swayed, it lit up the entire bedroom. He pulled a wooden chair over as he sat by the bedside as his gaze was serene yet complicated as he looked at Yi Qing Luo. That gaze made Yi Qing Luo frown uncomfortably. Zhu Wuxia? I'm fine. The man's voice was clear. Yi Qing Luo got up and was about to pull Zhu Wuxia's arm, then check my pulse. Before her hand could get near Zhu Wuxia, her wrist was held back by him. The man's gaze towards her became even more complicated. It was so complicated that Yi Qing Luo's brows creased even tighter. Her vision fell onto Zhu Wuxia's hand which was holding her wrist and met with that pair of complicated eyes. You're making it hard for me to believe that you're all right. The one who's in trouble isn't me but you. Zhu Wuxia placed her hand back into the blanket. Her voice was clear and cold, but the words she spat out were like a bomb thrown out. You don't even know that you're pregnant? Yi Qing Luo seemed as though she was struck by lightning as her eyes widened as she looked at Zhu Wuxia in shock. What was he saying? Pregnant? How was that possible? There were no signs of pregnancy at all. Yi Qing Luo suddenly recalled that when she was in the basement, there was indeed a strange feeling in her abdomen. When she left the basement, she fainted from the pain in her abdomen. Pain? Yi Qing Luo's hand suddenly pressed on her stomach. Before I fainted, my stomach? The child is fine. Zhu Wuxia's gaze was deep and serene as he looked at Yi Qing Luo's shocked but unconcealable joy, as well as the faint look of anticipation and concern towards the child in her tummy. His gaze grew deeper, but after all, she had suffered quite a bit of shock earlier. If she wants the child to be safe, then she has to recuperate properly. Yi Qing Luo's mind was in a mess, almost unable to think properly. She couldn't believe that in her stomach, there was actually a baby that belonged to her and Diamo Xian. Their baby, Yi Qing Luo's hand was placed gently on her abdomen, her fingertips trembled gently. If Diamo Xian knew about this, he would definitely be as ecstatic as her. He would be filled with mixed feelings of agitation and nervousness. You're very happy? Zhu Wuxia looked at the young lady's gentle face and seemed to have thought of something as her entire body emitted a sweet and joyous aura, as his heart felt a slight piercing pain. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love, everyone please collect it. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love and hit me. Chapter 53:19. Yi Qing Luo's eyes drooped as she looked deeply at her flat tummy as her fingers trembled gently. Happy, naturally I'm happy. This was her and Xian's child. In her tummy was the child which belonged to her and Xian. Although there was bewilderment, nervousness, apprehension, shock. But most of it was the joy and agitation of having the crystallization of her and Ah Xian's love. Zhu Wuxian's fingers under his white robes clenched slightly. That cold and indifferent face concealed all the emotions in his heart very well. He only calmly looked at Yiqing Luo. His gaze was as cold as water and his voice was clear. But have you ever thought that the current situation, your pregnancy, will only drag you down? Yiqing Luo's hand, which was caressing her tummy, suddenly paused as her pupils contracted slightly. Zhu Wuxian's voice was very cold. You're pregnant, so you must take care of the child in your tummy and not act recklessly like now. Otherwise it will not be beneficial to your body and the child in your tummy. Moreover, the pregnant you, do you still have the ability or energy to summon the sacred beast or activate the vast water god relic's energy? Have you ever thought of all these? Yiqing Luo was stunned when she heard that as she fell silent. Right. Now was the best time to capture Huang Wuyo and get rid of him. She was pregnant at this critical juncture. Even if it was for the baby. She absolutely could not put herself in danger again. Nor could she go all out against Huang Wuyo. She wasn't alone now. Furthermore, the pregnant her activating the god relic's energy, would it affect the baby? This child has come at the wrong time. Zhu Wuxian's gaze was chilly. Yiqing Luo, now various domains are fighting with Huang Wuyo's undead puppets and undead army, causing all the lives in the various domains to be plunged into misery and suffering. And the minute Huang Wuyo uses the forbidden arts and recovers 70% of his power, I'm afraid that by then the number of people who will die will increase and the domains that will be invaded will increase. Zhu Wuxian's vision slowly fell onto Yiqing Luo's palm, which was caressing her abdomen. Especially, Huang Wuyo has now treated you as his vessel, and even Fengxi has been targeted by him. If he knew that you're pregnant, guess. Would he make use of the child in your womb as a bargaining chip? Zhu Wuxian's words were like a sharp weapon that ruthlessly tore apart the most realistic situation. Zhu Wuxin's words were very cruel. But it was undeniable that he was right. With the birth of this baby, she had to face a lot of problems. Yiqing Luo, you only have one way now. Zhu Wuxian's chilly gaze was at the same level as Yiqing Luo. His voice was calm and indifferent like water. However, the words that came out of his mouth were extremely cruel. This child cannot be kept. Impossible. Yiqing Luo's pupils suddenly widened as her body stopped abruptly and both her arms wrapped around her waist. This is my and Ah Xian's child, our first child. I absolutely cannot not want this child. Her gaze towards Zhu Wuxian was filled with vigilance and anger. My baby's timing might indeed be wrong, but since it's here, it's here. The baby is already in my womb, so I cannot possibly give up on the baby. I don't want to hear this kind of words for the second time. Zhu Wuxian went silent. Yiqing Luo caressed her abdomen as she didn't say another word. After a long time, she was a little tired from maintaining that position and slowly leaned back against the bed head. But her hand was still placed on her abdomen. When her brows drooped, her long and narrow eyes were filled with an obvious gentle maternal warmth. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:20. The baby's arrival made her overjoyed and excited. But as God Realm's divine phoenix, Feng family's eldest grandchild, she had to bear her mother's dying wish. She had to step forward bravely to settle Huang Wuyo. Especially now, Huang Wuyo's corpse puppets had already infiltrated into various realms. But now she had lost track of Huang Wuyo's whereabouts. Once she gave Huang Wuyo a chance, she was afraid that, based on Huang Wuyo's viciousness, plus the fact that various realms were in flames, Huang Wuyo might possibly make use of this convenience to replenish the missing energy in his body. By then, it would be even harder to deal with him. And she, under the premise of having this baby, all her actions had to consider the baby's safety. Yiqing Luo touched her abdomen as her mind was filled with thousands of thoughts. The room was silent for a long time. Finally, it was Zhu Wuxian who broke the silence. He seemed to have understood something as he gave a long sigh and his cold voice rang faintly. You don't have to worry too much. The child in your stomach is much stronger than you think. Yiqing Luo was stunned as she raised her head to look at him. In the refining vessel, under that kind of intense flame, the child still managed to survive. Zhu Wuxian's gaze fell onto her abdomen. Plus, after the refining vessel's 100 smelting flame, not only has your body been tempered, the child in your stomach has also gained a blessing in disguise. Yiqing Luo's pupils contracted slightly. She recalled that when she was refining the vessel, Huang Wuyo had continuously increased the intensity of the flames. However, the initial discomfort she felt after being burned by the flames was gradually reduced to not feeling much of a pain. Initially, she thought she was used to that kind of temperature. Now that she thought about it, she was afraid that the change in her body was related to the refining vessel. At that time, her body had been tempered by the refining vessel's 100 smelting flame, so that her body had undergone an earth-shattering change. As compared to before, the state of her god physique was even better. The baby in her stomach. Under the 100 smelting flame, it survived well. Not only that, under the situation where she kept on depleting her physical strength and profound energy, the baby was still healthy and had not suffered any fluctuations. It was indeed considered as a blessing in disguise. But what made Yiqing Luo puzzled was, when she was refining the vessel, when her physical strength was not enough, she obviously felt a surge of energy coming from her abdomen. It was this power that allowed her to hold on. Only then could she successfully follow Zhu Wuxin's aura and leave the refining vessel. That power, what could it be? So coincidentally, it was at the abdomen position? Could it be that it had something to do with her baby? This thought merely flashed past and was dispelled by Yiqing Luo. The baby in her stomach hadn't even formed yet. Speaking of which, if Huang Wuyo knew that the refining vessel he had spent so much time and effort to prepare had actually made her stronger, he would have been shocked. He was probably going to vomit blood again. Yiqing Luo checked her own pulse, and after ascertaining that her baby was fine, she sat up straight. Where are we now? The design of this room did not seem like the demon palace of the demon domain. The two of them should have already left the infernal domain. As expected, Zhu Wuxin answered, the immortal realm. Yiqing Luo's brows creased as she was puzzled why Zhu Wuxin brought her to God realm. Perhaps he had seen through Yiqing Luo's thoughts as Zhu Wuxin said calmly, Huang Wuyo has already left the infernal domain and currently, a large portion of the corpse puppet's army are attacking towards the immortal realm. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:21. The moment Patriarch Feng returned to God Realm, he had already headed to the battlefield with the acting God Emperor. Feng family might not be able to hold on for long. So, I felt that you might want to return to God Realm, so I brought you back. Hearing Zhu Wuxian's words, Yiqing Luo's expression sunk. Huang Wuyo was planning to attack the three realms directly, to fulfill his ambition? Yiqing Luo remembered, based on Huang Wuyo's current state. Did he have the ability to attack the three realms? Once the three realms joined forces, he didn't have much of a chance of winning. But Huang Wuyo had done it. Moreover, before she fainted, Huang Wuyo had already employed the undead puppets to attack the devil's domain. And now to the three realms. Huang Wuyo shouldn't be doing something he had no confidence in. Unless... What reliance did he have? Yiqing Luo's expression was unpredictable, as her hands, which were hanging by the side of the bed, clenched tightly into fists. Zhu Wuxian, thank you. She got off the bed and with a wave of her arm, the blazing red robe landed on her body. I must go stop Huang Wuyo. She walked quickly towards the door. But before she stepped out of the room, Zhu Wuxian's cold voice was heard from behind. If it was in the past, I wouldn't advise you. But, since you want to keep the child in your tummy, then you shouldn't go over. Yiqing Luo's footsteps halted. Her hands slowly landed on her tummy. Zhu Wuxian looked at her back as he said word by word, you know very well that Huang Wuyo must have something to rely on for him to launch such a large-scale battle. If you join in the battle, you won't be able to protect the child in your tummy. Yiqing Luo's body tensed up, as the slender fingers on her tummy gradually stiffened. Yiqing Luo, stay here. Zhu Wuxian's cold voice carried a hint of bewitchment, as he walked step by step towards Yiqing Luo's back. This is the safest place in the three realms. Stay here, I'll take care of you and you'll be able to give birth to the child safely. Yiqing Luo, for the child in your tummy, you can't take the risk. His hand slowly stretched towards Yiqing Luo's wrist. His face was as cold as cast, and his thin lips carried a faint smile that was hard to detect. But, just as Zhu Wuxian's hand was about to grab Yiqing Luo, Yiqing Luo suddenly took 2 steps back and walked out of the room, avoiding Zhu Wuxian's hand. She turned around. The wind fluttered her blazing red robe, and her long black hair fluttered like silk. That devastatingly beautiful face didn't have the slightest trace of emotion. She looked at Zhu Wuxing coldly. Her pink lips moved slightly, and her words were filled with a faint coldness. Zhu Wuxing, I don't care why you want me to stay, but you know very well that I can't let Zhu Wuxing attack the three realms without any scruples. I can't watch my brothers fight a bloody battle, and I definitely won't let my family suffer any harm. She paused, her long and narrow eyes faintly flashed with a trace of softness. I won't let Xian fight alone. She was the divine phoenix of the God Realm, the pillar of the God Realm. She had promised her mother that she would protect the God Realm that her mother had failed to protect. She had also promised her brothers that she would not let them suffer any harm because of her. She even promised Dmo Xian that no matter what, she would face it together with him. She couldn't possibly abandon her own responsibilities because of her own selfish desires. Zhu Wuxian's icy cold eyes faintly showed some fluctuations of emotions. Then you don't care about the child in your tummy's safety? Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:22. I will try my best to protect him. Yiqing Luo's tone was resolute. Zhu Wuxian didn't say a word for a long time. Yiqing Luo turned around as her jet black hair fluttered. Her back view was suave and carried an unquestionable charisma. Zhu Wuxian, thank you. Goodbye. This time round, Zhu Wuxian didn't stop her. But just as Yiqing Luo's red figure completely disappeared in front of Zhu Wuxian, Zhu Wuxian's icy cold voice rang faintly, Dmo Xian. Is he really that good, so good that you disregard everything and go over to his side? Huang Wuyu's undead puppets army had grown in numbers and it was already more than 1 million. And it had the tendency of exploding. Those undead puppets were all elite puppets. They swiftly attacked and occupied God Realm, Heaven Realm, Earth Realm, even Nirvana Realm. It was a bloodbath. There were people who could recognize them. Among those undead puppets, many of them were their loved ones whom they had been searching for a long time. Moreover, they all had one thing in common. Before they went missing, they were all extremely talented in cultivation or they had been soaked in medicinal pills since young, the hope of their clans. Now, all of them had turned into puppets that didn't know pain, didn't fear death, didn't have souls and 5 senses, only knowing how to kill. Yiqing Luo's entire journey was littered with corpses and smoke. The raging fire pierced her eyes. The air was filled with a thick stench of blood. All of these were the traces left behind by the war. Yiqing Luo endured the surging feeling in her stomach as she placed one hand on her abdomen and speedily walked on the battlefield, nearing her destination. God Realm. About 100 miles away from the Feng residence, it was a wasteland. The originally bustling main city had long fallen into enemy hands. Only the Feng residence and a few aristocratic residences remained standing. A purple figure stood on top of the city walls with his hands behind his back. The battle cries of the undead puppets and God Realm's guards reverberated in the sky. The man's peerless face was filled with an icy coldness. Still worried about last Luo? An old voice was heard from the man's back. The coldness on the man's body receded slightly. Grandfather. That girl is the destined ruler of the divine emperors, the destined successor of the God Realm, so, no matter what happens, nothing will happen to her. Patriarch Feng slowly walked to the man's side and looked at the battlefield with him. Blood dyed the dark sky red. Emotion. Feng clan's master suddenly spoke. He looked sideways at the man beside him and he sighed, Go. Grandfather. Dmo Xian was slightly stunned, his voice was slightly hoarse. Feng clan master closed his eyes. I know you are staying here to protect us for Luoya. That's enough. Dmo Xian's slender fingers slowly clenched. Feng clan master raised his hand and patted his shoulder. We are also very worried about that girl. I'm afraid only you can find her in this world. Go find her. She's Feng Ji's daughter. Only she can stop this catastrophe. Between Dmo Xian's eyes, there was a faint flickering light. His gaze shifted to the corpses strewn all over the battlefield. Finally, he clenched his fist. Grandfather, I will definitely bring Luo heir. Before he could finish his words, suddenly a deafening roar exploded. Not far away, a strong force was approaching from afar, as if it was breaking through the sky, with irresistible force. That was hundreds of undead puppets clustered together. On top of those undead puppets, a figure shrouded in a black robe stood against the wind. The violent and tyrannical hurricane made the other party's black robe flutter. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentle with your love. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentle with your love. You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.